Oh, I know what I'm hearing. I know what I'm hearing. I'm hearing YouTube that's going in the background. Man, so much crazy stuff going on tonight. StreamYard was having some trouble, folks, but I stayed calm. I took my blood pressure pill, so I held it together, and we got a show tonight. So nothing's going to stop us from having the legendary Joel Hoekstra on the Unleashed tonight. I'm starting to have some guests because for the last basically, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, it's just been me pretty much interviewing myself every week. So I decided to change it up, start having some friends on the show. Last week we had Rick Fox talking about the old Sunset Strip 80s days, plus his spot in the Wayne's World movie. Fun stuff. Check that out if you missed it. And last night was Fright Bite. I know I probably have some Fright Biters here that also watch the Unleashed channel. And that was a lot of fun. You have to bear with me while I start getting my images ready now that StreamYard finally let me in to do my job. Thanks, StreamYard. But this was Fright Bite 33. This was a thumbnail. Yes, AI. I had AI do it. And I uploaded some photos of us. The Dahlia one looks like we fired Dahlia and hired somebody else that is wearing her clothes or something. It didn't quite get that right on there, but it did get Edgar right, and it got Agent Skunk right, and Stoic Steve. And we were kind of stoked to see the A-team here all gathered together in one episode, because you're basically looking at the good guys here. Edgar we thought he was going to be a bad guy, but he turned out to be a good guy. He did escape from Dr. Von Brainscan's lab at one point, and we had to retrieve him, but he was really just looking for a girlfriend and some temptations, shrimpy shrimp treats. And of course, Stoic Steve, who's shown off his katana sword skills in the Easter episode, he made an appearance as well. So if you didn't get to see that yet, please do. We have a great time with that. I also paid tribute to Cooter, that passed away from Dukes of Hazzard fame. I did my own little take on the Dukes of Hazzard theme, or the Count did. Anyway, wink, wink, and changed some of the lyrics around, but it was funny stuff. But let me jump in here and say hey to everybody. Dale Groot was first on deck tonight. This will be a banger. Yes, it will. Joel Hoekstra will be joining us very shortly. I would say he's going to be here in about 20 minutes. So hang tight and get your questions ready for him. I know I picked some photos and stuff to go along, but I want to talk about Joel's whole career from the time he was a kid, at first picked up the guitar, to playing in Trans-Siberian Orchestra, which is probably the coolest gig that he does. He's in the East Coast version, and Blas Elias is in the West Coast version. So we got two of those guys in our band currently, and that's super dope. Blas Elias just had a birthday yesterday, I believe. So definitely want to wish Blas a happy birthday. 32 years old. 32 years old. Who else we got here tonight? We got Johnny Ponder, yo. Ooh, I've never seen the solo band, but I for sure will if Joel stays in the band. You guys sound great now. I saw Ratt twice, and PD last year. Oh, Pearcy DiMartini last year, and going again Friday night. Well, that is awesome to hear. Yeah, those guys are going to be playing the Monsters on the Mountain Fest, and then a couple days later, I think they're playing the Hard Rock, right, in Orlando. So that's pretty dope. You're getting to see that. Yeah, Joel being in the solo bands definitely raised the stocks for everybody involved. He's kind of a world-class player, so we're super stoked to have him. And so far, the response has been really great. I did a road vlog for this first of two shows that we did last weekend, and it hit 10,000 views, which is super dope. And I know that's because of Joel, that the excitement's kind of gathered, and we've got a couple shows under our belt. So the magic is starting to happen. I could sense it in the audience. It's like a uplifting vibe that just starts to happen, and next thing you know, tops are coming off. No, I'm just kidding. That doesn't actually happen very often, but it does still happen occasionally. Jay Lee's here, everybody. Jay Lee in the house, and what a treat to have Joel on tonight. Erik, you guys both rock. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a treat. From Whitesnake to Cher and everything in between, Joel Hoekstra is the real deal. Yes, he is. And he's actually already like on deck tonight, so I'm not even going to waste time. I'm going to bring him on in. What's happening, my brother?
Dude, what's happening, man?
I was worried for a second because StreamYard took a dump right at showtime.
I mean, here we are, man. It's all good, dude. I've checked out some of these here and there, like since we've been jamming together. And by the way, total pleasure to rock out with you, man. And thank you for having me on. And thanks everybody for hanging out with me tonight, I guess, or Erik having me on to hang out.
They're excited. I mean, when you think about it, all these awesome bands that you performed with, it's got to be in the millions of fans that you've played for in your life. So you played for a ton of people. You've provided rock and entertainment for these folks. I picked a bunch of photos too to kind of go along with everything tonight. I got a little bit of a late start on it only because.
Oh man, you did homework. You did research.
A little bit. I mean, I'm like, hey man,
production value. I like it.
Let's start at the beginning. Let's start with this guy.
Yeah, man.
It's got the Aussie shirt on. That's pretty dope. What kind of guitar is that?
That is an Electro Westone that got at the mall. So it technically is my second guitar, but the first one it was a no-go, man. It was my stepmom's acoustic. Okay. And I was taken from this teacher who's had me in the Alfred's method. My parents are classical people, right? So I started out really early on cello and piano, and I wasn't into it at all. I was like, right. I didn't want to do this. I was, kind of a baseball obsessed little boy, man. I mean, I'm talking, I was like 5 or something when I played cello, way back. And then, right. Piano was like 7. And yeah,
but your mom plays. Your mom was a musician.
My mom and my dad, classical
both serious players.
So right. Yeah, both like great, like sight reading kind of people and church musician kind of people, and but all classical. And yeah, so I saw Angus Young and was like, man, I want to play guitar, and went to my parents and asked, and so I had to start on my stepmom's acoustic, and next thing I know, I was taking from this guy teaching me to sight read, and I was like, right. Oh, this isn't cool. This isn't what I pictured. Like, huh? But this is back in the day before we had all this technology, and you could actually understand that, like, hey, this is attainable. You can play rock songs. I just sort of thought these people were like deities, and like it was some kind of magic that allowed them to play like that. I was right. Like, it couldn't wrap my head around the fact. Are you seeing
rock bands for the first time on MTV, or did your parents ever listen to rock? How are you hearing all this stuff that inspired you to rock?
Yeah, the really early days MTV. I don't know if maybe I got some years on you. I'm not sure. We never really talked about our ages.
I'm 53. But, I know you're around the same age as me.
I'm 55. Yeah. So like for me, I was, just like, blown away when this new thing called MTV came on, and you could like watch a video associated with the song. And I'm showing how old I am, but this, for those that weren't around in these days, man, there weren't many videos. Like, MTV was rotating like 6 videos or something like that. And, AC/DC had something. I can't even tell you what it was for, but I just remember seeing Angus and thinking he was the coolest. And this is back when you'd go into, the record stores at the mall, which where I lived at least. And,
which is Chicago, right? We're talking Chicago here.
Yeah, the burbs of. I grew up in Orland Park, which is a southwest suburb, a very blue collar town. So we were an interesting family. We had no money, but my parents were kind of like these highbrow people, and we lived amongst like total, blue collar, working class, union plumbers, electricians kind of vibe. So we kind of stuck out a little bit, But yeah, just seeing Angus, and performing, and it was more like the vibe than it was like, oh, I really like his pocket, like I
was it for those about to rock video? Because that was a quintessential one for me as a kid on MTV. See, it was like a live. They had a few live videos back then that were really like, whoa. Mm-hmm. One was For Those About to Rock, And the other one was Van Halen. So This Is Love. Like this is around
Oh
like
yeah.
81 or 2 or something.
So yeah, I know For Those About to Rock was out when I started guitar. Like, but Back in Black was really the one, and For Those About to Rock, I wore that out too. Those are my first two loves right there. Those
Yeah.
two cassettes, to be
Sure.
accurate, not records. That would sound like, pretentious and everything. They're cassettes, man. And I don't know if you remember that Columbia Tape Club deal that
Oh
you could
yeah.
get. You sign up and you get like, 8
10 for a
cassettes
penny.
for. Yeah, exactly, dude. So I did that, and that's what expanded me into like, I selected like Ozzy and Black Sabbath and stuff. And but to get back to it, like what really like opened my eyes to it, I remember being at my friend's house and he pulled out this electric and he started playing like Crazy Train, and my mind exploded. I just didn't understand
Right.
how it was possible. Like, how do you know that? I thought this was only possible if you were like a deity, as I said, some kind of spiritual being or something. And he's like, man, you got to go take from my teacher, and he teaches rock songs, and that he was great. And from then on, I was hooked. I went my first lesson and learned like the verse riff to Paranoid, taught me a power chord, and I was off and running. Like that was in a lot of ways the last career decision I ever made. Like as far as what I was going to do with my life, that was it.
Sure.
Like I was hooked and was like obsessed.
Were you worried about like playing in front of people or anything? Were you?
Oh, yeah, big time. Still am. I mean, that's always been a thing with me. I mean, my first gig or gigs of my first band, I think by the time I was playing gigs, I was 15. I'd gotten myself in this band where everybody was a little bit older than me. Everybody looked a little bit cooler. They had the long
Right.
hair, and I was still, up there with short hair. But that they had me on because it was like, hey, you can play. But yeah, I was terrified. I remember not being able to move my feet. They were just like planted to the deck, and just like, oh my God, I was so nervous. And I still am like, I think that's why, like, a lot of times I'll be higher energy on some gigs. I'm able to I guess find a delicate balance at times these days as well. But it
What was the
just
first band
so
you remember opening up for back then? Like as far as a national act, when you were in your like local band with the older dudes, do you remember like the first show where you got to open for an actual national
so
band for a
we
packed gig?
we didn't do Can I swear on your show? I
Yeah,
think I can. Yeah, we
absolutely.
didn't do shit. I mean, we were like we played at all ages shows. We had a cool local scene though. There were some great guys were in that scene. Dan Donegan from Disturbed was part of our local scene, and he and I used to get together occasionally and jam just on guitar.
Rad.
Long before he became a rock god with Disturbed and sold like 10 gazillion albums. And so, that's kind of a cool bond we have. It was a talented scene. A lot of the guys are still out there doing it back there, and they're great. I listen to them, I'm like, man, there's a lot of work, like hard work ethic in the Midwest, man, where people go after stuff hard. They practice really hard. So a lot of the, mega talented players from that scene they're still there, and they're kicking ass and, playing in tribute bands and whatnot. But I don't know what I guess I needed to make a decision. My parents were all about my dad, especially. He was like really into education. He has doctorates, and all right. So I killed a couple of years doing like classical guitar for my associates, kind of like while I was still poking around with that band. And then I went to GIT.
Right.
It talked them into that, because I was like, all I wanted to do was go out there. I had this awesome second teacher as well. I was super technically proficient, TJ Helmrich. He just happened to be in the local scene there. And that's a lot of the reason that the two-hand stuff exists for me at all, any of the tapping, because he was working on the 8-finger technique while he was teaching me. We were putting the cart way in front of the horse. I should have been working on like steady eighth notes, but he was showing me how to do all this multi-finger tapping stuff. Kind of bonkers.
He was a
Back
teacher
on
at GIT.
well, so what happened is he was local. He had gone out to GIT and like as a student,
Okay.
and then landed a gig teaching there. So he's like, come
Rad.
out to GIT, man, and we'll,
Yeah.
by then we were buddies. It was like I'd gotten old enough that, he was like, I'll help you out here. So I felt like I had somebody who was like a little bit older than me, a little bit
Right.
more advanced, and maybe have my back a little bit if I got out there. So I went out there and did that, and then spent a year when that was over working at Cherokee Recording Studios. And then things are getting bonkers. This is the Rodney King riots era.
Sure.
and I got mugged at some point. I mean, like the homeless thing was so like crazy out in Hollywood at that point, that I just went back to Chicago, kind of with my tail between my legs in a lot of ways. But I just wanted to like play more. When I was working at Cherokee, I was a tech, and I just wasn't playing guitar. So I was like, man, I to be happy, I need it in my hands. That's what I want to do. That's kind of when I realized that it was more about like being a pro guitar player for me more than, we had the discussion about being like, somebody who's hopped around at various gigs versus like, what you've had with Stephen, where it's longevity. I admire that, by the way. I really do. It's not the way my life panned out ever. I just kind of
Right.
ended up like, I had my local bands, and then I needed to pay bills. So I remember teaching 70 students a week through my 20s back there at a store, and gigging on weekends with my bands. And then the gigs kind of got better and better. But to answer, I guess, where things started to be like, hey, when did you start meeting some bigger name people? I ended up in Kathy Richardson's band locally there. Kathy sings for Jefferson Starship these days, and she's
Right.
awesome, man. She's a
Yeah.
great talent. Sings amazingly well, but plays great rhythm guitar and played keyboards, and she had her own stuff, and she was doing great in the bar scene there. So that was kind of the first time people were like, oh, who's this guy? When I started playing for her band. And one of those guys was Jim Peterick from Survivor. He was local there, despite being obviously like writing all these big hits and stuff. Jim not only wrote the stuff for Survivor, but he was in the Ides of March before Survivor and wrote like Vehicle for them when he was really a young guy. And then co-wrote those 38 special songs like Caught Up in You and Hold On Loosely.
Really?
Really well known as like a great songwriter. Co-wrote Heavy Metal with Sammy Hagar. So he started to have these events called World Stage, and he put me in his house band, mainly because he'd keep an eye on who Kathy was playing with. He'd go like, all right, if they're playing with Kathy, they're good.
Yeah.
He could have them in. And then I ended up getting to back up all these people. So my first experience with like opening was actually playing with
The
people that were
headliner.
like really famous, like
Yeah.
Jim would have these guests out. So on one gig, I'd say it was like one show, it'd be like, Rick Emmett from Triumph and Don Barnes from 38 Special and Kevin Cronin from REO Speedwagon. I mean, it was crazy. And I was just this local guitar player who hadn't really done much, and I was getting to back these guys up.
Right.
And that was huge for me. And I give Jim a lot of credit with that, as far as the guy who got me started, because without Jim, Night Ranger never would have happened. Kelly Kagi was one of those guests every year, the drummer from Night Ranger. Kelly would come out and we would do the Night Ranger hits, and these were just like annual events. You do it like once a year, maybe twice a year. And then I ended up getting the opportunity to fill in for then Reb Beach. There was a little window, people forget about that, between Jeff Watson and myself. Reb
Huh.
Beach was actually the guitarist in Night Ranger for a year. So yeah, I ended up kind of meeting Reb at that point, and you can see how everything kind of falls into place. But Kathy, in the interim, had landed this gig as Janis Joplin in this theater piece called Love Janis. It was a rock theater show, right? And basically what happened is I got in the band through knowing her for New York. So I came out here to New York, where I still live all these years later. I came out here 25 years ago. It's kind of insane to think about, to do this show. And I thought it was going to run for maybe a couple months. And I'm out here 25 years later. It was never in the cards to move to New York. I just moved here to do a gig, and I felt like it ran for 2 years, and I was kind of settled by the end. But I was still flying back. So I'd do these 8 shows at Love Janis and fly back and do Jim's World Stage gigs. And that's when, Night Ranger started to happen. Kelly was seeing me doing Love Janis as well, and was like, this guy's, he's moving up. He's like, basically, it took a long time though, like for all these things to happen. Like I must have done World Stage with Kelly 6 or 7 times by the time I got that invite. So we'd known each other for 6 or 7 years by the time I even filled in with Night
Is this
Ranger.
mid 90s or is this now in the 2000s? Which time period?
2000s, yeah. Like so, and I think kind of also in there was another thing that was similar to World Stage in a regard. Do you remember scrap metal at all?
Yeah.
So scrap metal was something that formed with Kelly on drums, but it was Mark Slaughter and the Nelson twins. And then
Right.
they kind of wanted a guy who would learn the leads And they would have guest singers as well. Typically, it'd be like Eric Martin or Joe Lynn Turner, as well as playing the Nelson stuff and the Slaughter stuff and the Night Ranger stuff. So, you
You got to be
know,
good to do that, to pull
it
those off.
was, yeah, I mean, I busted my ass and definitely tried to make a good impression. And I think so. Kelly kind of testing the waters with me with that, as well as World Stage before the Night Ranger thing kind of became official. I filled in for them once for Reb, like about 6 months before I actually started playing with them. And that was cold too, man. No rehearsal. And that was the selling point because Kelly was like, this guy will just know everything. Like I see him come in and do Peter's gigs and he's got the 30 songs down. He'll just get off a plane and do the show. So that's what gave me the opportunity. And then, kind of here we are in a way. I mean, I don't want to give away the whole roadmap here.
No, everybody loves it, man. They're so excited that you're here tonight. I'll read a couple comments. Dale Group, Joel has had a great career from legacy bands, legacy artists, and the spectacle of TSO. It is quite the spectacle. Would you say that, I mean, we will bounce around a little bit, but would you say overall the TSO is the biggest rock show that you've ever done as far as pyrotechnics and stage show and all that?
As far as production, absolutely. I can't think of anything else that's even close, actually, as far as what they put into their production. Now, that being said, TSO, like the show, is the star. It's less of a, you're on the band shirt, your image is on the band shirt, or you're going to write for the albums or record for the albums. So everything that I've been able to do has different things, that like the strong points. And I think the key is to always look at what those strong points are, like otherwise you drive yourself crazy. If you look at what's wrong with something, there's a lot of people that do that all the time. And I think that's a great way to shoot yourself in the foot because you just end up complaining about great situations. Sometimes you have no perspective and you don't remember, hey, like, you got to look back all the time and go, dude, like the teenage me would be flipping out playing with Stephen Pearcy, right? So it's like, or you just understand, you find what's good about all these different playing situations and try and keep your focus on that. So with TSO, you may not have the artistic input you'd ever want to have.
Sure.
But I mean, as far as like, dude, to play arenas twice a day and have that kind of production value and, great guys in the band. I mean, I've been working with them now for 16 years with TSO. So, we got a great bond, that band. We've been together a long time. It's a really long time to be with any gig. So
how many people are involved with the TSO personnel wise? Maybe start with how many musicians. Do you have that number?
I mean, it's a lot because we have a lot of singers to break it up. So like, if a singer goes down, it's not the entire show. Typically, a lead singer's singing like one or two songs in the show and then singing backing vocals. So
save their voice.
I would say on each side, you probably got about like 19. I think the count is something like that. So if you take that with, there's an East and a West band for those that don't know, because to play enough gigs around the holidays, you kind of need it to cover the U.S. Otherwise, half the U.S. would be complaining, hey, why don't you ever play here? Or we'd be doing it in like August where people would be like, what the hell was this Christmas show on in August? So the only way to really get that done, once it became the success that it became, they basically took, those that don't know, that TSO is really Savatage. They took that band and that was the core band. And then once it became successful, they were like, look, we need to take Savatage and kind of split them two ways and fill the band with players who kind of audition and get the gig. And then, I'm more or less one of those people, right? So it's like, you come in and you're like, and dude, like no complaints. Those guys have been killer to me across the board, all of them. So great to be a part of.
It's a career for sure. And, I was curious just because it is so involved with the solos that you have to do. And the music's really intricate. Is that something you have practice tapes that you kind of go through all year so you're ready for this at the end of the year, or are you busy with other stuff and just kind of go to it a few weeks before it starts? How does it work for you?
Busy with other stuff, and then they give you a song list roughly about like right now, like late August, maybe. Last year was around late August, but a lot of times it's not until like, I don't know, early September, mid-September, they'll give you a song list that's actually bigger than your set list, right? Because they'll want to debate about, sometimes we'll have rotating sets. Some songs will rotate out by show, so it's not identical.
Okay.
So you'll end up learning typically get or relearning in my case, because I've played almost all of them. You end up like, I don't know, like I'm trying to think how many songs we usually about like, it's a lot, like
30.
36 or something
Oh,
like that. Yeah. You'll get together and then get in rehearsals, and then they kind of start to fall off in rehearsals, and then you don't hear about that song anymore. And then surprisingly, the set list is not typically made until like maybe a day or two before you're starting. It's like you're
wow.
kind of, yeah, they audition like the production value of it, and that's a huge part of it. Is the management and the production team like to sit out there and look at it. So it's not always evaluated on like, hey, these songs will flow the best, kind of the flow of the production and what they're seeing. And like I said, the production's a big part of that show.
Yeah, look at this. It looks dangerous. You're actually pretty far ahead of it though. It's not. Can you feel that flames coming up?
Yeah, you feel some heat on your back. But it's, yeah, in general, most of the time it's happening behind you. There's been some where they had some that happened in front of us. Actually really fun because, when Paul O'Neill was still alive, the man who founded TSO, he basically was like, "Oh, I got this pyro this year. You're not going to believe it. You can deflect it with your guitars." And so, we would end the show kind of taking on the back of our guitars. I have a white Les Paul that's just all charred on the back from pyro. And then I just kind of carved into the char pyro on the back. It's like on the front, you just see a white custom Les Paul, but on the back, it's all just completely charred from the pyro.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was great fun doing
They
that.
give you danger pay for that though, I'm sure, right? I mean, no, they should.
Man, I've been scared of most of it, not necessarily that, but the heights thing. I'm scared of heights, but I guess I looked at it like when I joined, they were asking me to go up in the lifts, and I was like, oh my God, I was terrified, but
Mm.
I just started looking at it like, dude, you might only do this gig like 1 or 2 years. I mean, when I started, man, I was really filling in for Alex Skolnick. There really was no like, we're giving you this gig. I mean, it was kind of like Alex has taken the year off. And I think it was more or less let's see how it goes this year and we'll figure it out moving forward
So you
kind of
didn't
thing.
have
So
that understudy period of like having to wait a year or two, like some guitar players have to do
I
before a
didn't.
spot opens up.
I didn't. I think I was maybe um, lucky in that regard at that point to have Night Ranger already. And by then I had started Rock of Ages on Broadway. And so I was doing, a lot of television appearances with that and stuff. And that actually helped get me the gig. We were like the musical guest on America's Got Talent, and Dee Snider kind of sat in with us. And so me being like, on TV. I remember my audition, oddly enough, like because I played all alone at SAR, and I was thinking going there, well, they'll have like a drummer or they'll have tracks or something for me to play to, something, but they didn't,
Right.
and I felt weird like doing
They're just
stage moves.
play. What do you got?
You're
They
like
just
playing
been,
all on your own, and then they were like videotaping, or
oh,
back then it was flip cams, was that era, right?
right.
And I'm thinking, like, man, I kind of need the audience, or I need like at least like the band playing to be like moving and to be like, I'm really into this. It just felt weird to be like, all right, let me throw a stage move. So I think initially Paul was like, yeah, okay, he can play, but he's got no stage presence. And then, at least this is what I hear after the fact. Like down the
Right.
road, you kind of hear these things. They'll tell you, a couple years down the road, you could have. This was the problem with your audition,
This
is
is
they
because of
thought,
your video, because you weren't jumping around in the video.
because I was just standing there, man. I felt really weird. I was like, well, they're just all looking at me, and I'm just standing by myself. I mean, how can you be like, doing all your rock moves and stuff? It felt like completely,
And you're
I don't
trying to
know.
focus, right? I mean, you want to play this as accurately as
Yeah,
possible. So that's
right.
kind of goofy. He didn't like actually. Well, was there YouTube yet, or no YouTube yet?
Yeah, man, that's tough to say. Maybe the early days of it, but I guess to get down to it, I was lucky in that I had some credits, and I think with Alex Skolnick taking a year off, it was kind of a situation where they needed somebody with some kind of band credit, to say, yes,
Sure.
okay, Alex Skolnick from Testament is no longer doing this, but we got Joel Hoekstra from Night Ranger, kind of thing. Helped, and Rock of Ages. And I was
Absolutely.
known enough to have it be like, okay, he's going to have some fans. And they do have their own fan base, and they're very dedicated, and rightfully so. So it wasn't as smooth sailing as you would think. It's not like I waltzed in there day one and all the fans were like, great, Alex is gone, and who's this new guy's great. Like initially it was kind of took like a little bit of getting used to me period, as happens when you come in on gigs. And
It
now,
does.
all these years later, 16 years later, I think, you know, the fans recognize the fact that, okay, yes, we could take a really long time to talk about all the music and gigs that I've been able to do over the last 16 years. And then people start to see that and then accept you more. And then also have a chance to meet you in their signing lines and recognize the fact that I'm not, a dick. I mean, I like to think of myself as a pretty humble guy, because things didn't really open up till really late. It took, like I
Right.
said, till I was joining Night Ranger at like 37 years old, man. So people think, I didn't exactly like have immediate success. And in fact, I have some people that go like, well, what were you doing, man? Were you like working a day job? I was like, no, dude, I was making my living with guitar the whole time. I just wasn't, like well known in our niche. I was doing all kinds of different things to, make a living playing guitar. But
Well, just the
it's
teaching aspect alone is a career,
that I owe my ass to that. I really do, man. Like that, the early days of my 20s, because I wanted to gig with my band, and I must have been making $50 when I go play in a bar or something like that. I mean, if I had to pay my bills with that when I was starting out as a pro at 21, 22, 23 years old, like I would have had to
Right.
fold up shop, man, and be like, all right, I guess I got to get a day job. But
Yeah.
teaching 70 students a week was like, all right, cool. I got this money, and I can cancel when I need to go do gigs. And that's something that went away from really 2001 when I came out here to do Love Janice all the way till COVID. So it kind of went away for about 19, 20 years. And now during COVID, I took it back on virtually here, and it saved my ass again. Really. I mean,
Right.
during COVID, that could have been a tragically bad period for me. But I ended up just like, hey, I'm going to teach. Now the lessons are longer, but I took on 31 a week during that time and had a lot of sessions. And, I learned about the magic of Cameo and personal greetings. And those were all the way that I was still able to like, make bread and make a living playing guitar. I hate to be like so workmanlike with it, but like there's a reality to that with guys like me. A lot of fans don't like understand that. Like I live in New York, I got 2 kids, it's expensive here. It's not that I haven't been able to make money and do well, I have, but like it still is expensive, and you still got to
It's a
make a
grind
living.
for you. It's a grind. I mean, you're definitely one of the busiest musicians I've ever personally met. I mean, you have like hardly any time to yourself from what I can see. You're freaking booked.
I mean, I try to do that not just for the paying the bills reason, but I feel like it's like something that helps me like continually improve,
Mhm.
which I do think is still happening. Like I still feel like I'm improving on guitar all the time. Um, I always wanted to do so in a real world way, not like in a content creation way. And that's not to bag on content creators, because
No.
everybody's got their thing. And like, there's a lot of amazing players that are doing that. But like my goal was to have it be like, so, people don't understand that, yeah, okay, maybe some fancy lead chops, but like 95% of my day I'm playing like rhythm guitar, doing
Sure.
sessions or like, and it really does come down to a lot of that. And I just wanted to be good at being like a musician with it more so than being like a shredder. Um,
Absolutely. Or being
so
the level of being able to be a good studio musician. It takes a lot to get to that point. For me, it was a lot of home recording. Like I had to just, even with GarageBand or whatever, that kind of got me a little more up to snuff with working with a click and
yep.
just getting the sound, the tones out of your fingers needed to be a recording artist.
Yeah,
Takes time.
same. I mean, all the records I do are pretty much done right here where I'm sitting. Like, about the Joel Hoekstra's 13 records that I did. Now, my instrumental stuff is all kind of done pre, I guess, home recording being so damn good. But you know, any of the Revolution Saint stuff I've done or Iconic, that's all kind of like right here, you know,
Is your
just
buddy
right
Brandon right
right at
here?
home. Yeah, man.
You guys do a cool like acoustic stuff around the
Yeah,
country, and
yeah,
you
there's
get
stuff that, like, you know, despite having the bigger stuff there, really by the time Brandon was talking to me, I feel like maybe I wasn't playing with Cher yet, but I think at that point I had Whitesnake and I had TSO. But he was like, "Hey, if you got spare weekends, I do gigs, and I a lot of times bring a second guitar player with me." We met on the Monsters of Rock cruise, and he just straight up asked me, like, "Would you ever be into like, you know, doing a gig with me?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, man! If I got a spare weekend, dude, I'm there. Like, let's do it." I just like
the
to
Monsters of
play.
Rock cruise is so awesome, right? I mean, once you're in there with Larry or whatever, I mean, that's just something as a musician to look forward to. I've kind of joked too that like for players that are married or in a relationship or something, it's like one of those cool things you could do for the family. Take them with you to that. It's like a free vacation along with just getting to hear all the great bands from back in the day, and all the people that all the cruisers that go on it are super chill. And
It really is a great cruise. I mean, I've done some others, and just the fact that there's constantly, like, at any given point on that cruise, you can go, man, there's four bands playing. Like, who do we want to go hear? That and the sheer number of bands that Larry brings on those, I feel like, you know, when you're walking down the hallway, one out every four or five people you're going to pass is from a band. So
yeah.
I feel like it really takes everybody and goes like that. Even for the guys that are hoping to avoid it and like stay in their cabins and stuff, you know, you end up really interacting a lot more, I think, with the actual bands on the Monsters of Rock cruise. Larry, I met early Night Ranger. He was sort of an interim tour manager. And that's really how it came about. And so because he had a relationship with Night Ranger, asked them the first year. So I went on and did the cruise 1 year with Night Ranger, and then they weren't going to do it the next year. But Larry loved having me on. This is back when I was kind of like out of my mind, like wild. You know, Brad Gillis and I had a lot of fun in Night Ranger, so that unleashed my fun era. So I was out partying with everybody, and you know, so Larry loved having me on the cruise because I was just kind of like um, out of my mind, nuts, hanging out with everybody, and
The
just
cruisers
you
were
know.
giving good feedback. They're like, "We love this guy. Like we're
Well,
bringing him back."
I was picking up bar tabs for everybody, that whole thing, you know. And so I remember after Night Ranger played, I was like hungover, and I went up on deck and I had an acoustic, and somehow I thought I could just go up there and practice like the old days and people wouldn't pay attention. And then just so happened John Corabi was renewing wedding vows for people, and they heard me playing this acoustic stuff. They're like, "Let's plug you in and just kind of play." So I started playing this fingerstyle stuff that I have behind the wedding stuff. And Larry was, you know, the next year he said, "Well, why don't you come on the cruise? I know Night Ranger is going to do it, but I want you on it." Well, what do I do, man? I'm not really a lead singer. I can't really stand there with an acoustic and just sing on my own. And he goes, "How about just doing that stuff you did behind Karabi?" I'm like, "You want me to go on a metal cruise and play like fingerstyle acoustic guitar?" Thought the only way this is going to fly is if I give away merch and I get people drunk. So I started this whole plan to go like free Bloody Marys for everybody if they show up to this thing. I was like, let's have it early in the morning, free drinks, and I'm going to give away free shit, we call it. And that has turned into a total thing. It's like bigger than the
I've
gig
seen it.
itself.
I did see you the first band to perform in the morning, and it was the XYZ singer, I believe, right? That was singing for
But
you.
Terry and I just played together for the first time down in Florida recently. So it wasn't him, but
No, who was it? Who? Because he was good. He was really good. I think it was
maybe
2
Danny
years.
Vaughn. There's been a lot of
Yeah.
singers that have done it over the years. I mean, I've had some you know, best of the best, man. Russell Allen, Dino Jalusic has
Yeah.
done it with me. Danny Vaughn, Brandon has gotten up there. As far as guest vocalists, I've had a lot of great ones. Todd Latore from Queensryche has come up and sung. Kip Winger. Um, Trying to think all who's been up there, man. It's pretty big list of people that have been like the guest singers over the years as well.
Well, it
So
sounded
it's
incredible. You guys had a great, cover list of, old classics, but it sounded legit. It was,
kind of like
it
to
wasn't
just like
offensive in the morning to your ears. You know what I mean? After a night of
kind of
partying.
like, yeah, exactly. I roll through some of that fingerstyle stuff as kind of a like, this is where this hangover jam began. and then kind of bring people up. The Y&T guys have traditionally been my rhythm section. Like Mike Vanderhul's done it all but 1 year on drums, and Mike's like, that's my dude, you know. Love
Yeah.
him for that set. He's just got the vibe and like plays just absolutely perfect for that kind of thing. And you know, back in the day it was Brad Lang in the early days, and then Brad parted ways with Y&T and Aaron Lee. And sometimes I make an exception to that because I really love Greg Smith a lot. I don't know if you know Greg, but Ted Nugent played with him for a long time, but he does a lot of different gigs. He's great. Playing with Red Beach these days, actually, in his fusion band. So usually get Greg up, great singing voice, great backing vocal voice. So it's a weird conglomeration of stuff. I'll play the fingerstyle acoustic. I'll usually sing a couple tunes, lead, and then start, you know, bringing up the guest vocalists or guest vocalist. Like, you know, when it was guys like Russell and Dino, it was like, well, I'm just going to have them sing the whole thing. Jeff Scott Soto's been up to sing on it. So, you know, a whole lot of them.
It must have been Russell that I saw. I don't know. It was awesome though. I really dug it.
Yeah.
Let's jump back to Night Ranger, because we didn't really talk too much about it. I mean, Brad Gillis is a legendary guy himself. You being an old Ozzy fan from your kid pictures that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that must have been pretty cool. I mean, did you pick up anything from playing with him?
Oh yeah, I learned a lot from Night Ranger. I was pretty green, man. You know, I had backed up a lot of people with that Peterick thing, but we were kind of like more or less a house band kind of thing. So we were backgroundish kind of guys. Maybe you could step forward a little bit and engage, but it was kind of like, you know, Night Ranger was that first time, especially with the way they set up their stage with Kelly stage left facing sideways so you can see him sing lead, and the deck being open for Jack Blades, or Brad Gillis, Jack Blades, and then myself. And so here I was, this guy who was kind of like, you know, a little green with the stage presence thing. And I remember very early on, we were in Japan, and I remember, like, you know, I'd be doing the stuff with Brad, like trading solos, and I would just look up and the whole place would be like looking at Brad only. And I was like, well, I can't go out like this, man. Like, I got to get it together, you know?
Right.
But Brad's got a great, like, you know, keep it fun, never say die attitude. Like, he's got a phrase, I will not be denied. That's what he says all the time. I will not be denied. And, you know, he kind of got me in that kind of mindset too, of like kind of aggressive and like, yeah, okay, you know, we're going for it, you know. Brad and I really, really clicked, not gonna lie. We were like big brother, little brother. We were like that in my time in the band, you know. We hung out constantly, you know. We were like, you know, I guess, you know, he had a lot of friends, I had a lot of friends, but we were like, for all intents and purposes, best friends during my time in Night Ranger. Like, you know, we were the guys that talk on the phone and, you know, kind of, yeah, he was definitely like my dude. Not that I didn't love the other guys too. I love the other guys. I learned a lot from them, and obviously Kelly I owe a lot to. They wouldn't even know who I am had he not brought me in.
Totally.
But Brad and I just clicked, you know.
You were also party buddies. You were party buddies too.
We were party buddies, dude. We were partying our faces off when I joined that band. I mean, it was, you know, I was young enough to be getting away with that, and just it was time of my life, because I kind of went from like nobody really caring who I was to being in a band where people wanted your autograph or wanted your picture and caring who you were. And so, you know, I owe a lot to those guys, man. We made a couple studio records together. We made an acoustic live album together, and we toured an awful lot, you know, so we played an awful lot of shows. So I definitely owe a lot to them. And I think never would have departed had it not been like Whitesnake, you know. And it's like, okay, a chance to play with David Coverdale and Tommy Aldridge and people like that, and Red Beach again, you know. I mean, that just was a great opportunity to get out. I mean, I was really enjoyed my time with Night Ranger, and owe a lot to those guys.
So you're rocking with Night Ranger, you're partying with Brad Gillis, you're learning all the stage moves, and now you're ready for the snake, the Whitesnake. How did this transition occur, like going from Night Ranger to Whitesnake? What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, well, Doug Aldrich left, so it was sort of like they needed somebody, and I guess I looked at that like, wow, that's a really great opportunity to tour the world no offense to what was happening with Night Ranger, but it was a lot of US. It was like a
Right.
lot of US fly dates. And we would maybe go to Japan here or there, maybe play like a one-off in the UK. You know, it provided a lot of great opportunities. It did, but I thought with Whitesnake, this is something where they're really, really big in the UK. They're big in Europe. They're big in South America, Australia. The tours are bigger in Japan. It just kind of gave me like, I felt like it would, and let's face it, the people that play guitar in Whitesnake, there's a lot of amazing players. So and when your name gets attached to that, you know, it should be honored like out of the gate. And the catalog is like insane, dude. I mean, my second
Right.
tour with them, we did a greatest hits tour, and it was like, oh my God. It was like every song was just like, you know, an incredible tune. So yeah.
Who played with you? Who was with you? Who was the other guitarist at the time?
Reb Beach.
Reb was
Yeah.
okay. So it was you and Reb. And did you split up the solos, or how did that work out? The workload.
Yeah, that was really more or less up to Reb, because, you know, really to that point, Reb had been there a long time, but Doug Aldrich was really the band leader and kind of would delegate like, okay, you play these solos, I'm going to play these. And Reb was really cool with me, man. He pretty much split it like 50-50.
Nice.
I mean, no complaints. I had a lot of opportunity, dude. No matter what, you have a lot of opportunity to shine on guitar and Whitesnake. It's the first band that I was ever in, except that very first band of mine, where it's like you have a guitar solo in the show, where it's just you on stage and you're
Right.
soloing, and that's a crazy feeling when you're doing stuff like playing Vakken and there's 80,000 people and you're alone on stage playing guitar for them. It's kind of a, you know, it's an adrenaline rush for sure. You know,
We've been doing that to you lately. We've been like, all right, throw them out there. We go take a break. We're like, perfect. You can go entertain them. But no, you're great at that, man. It's been a blast having you in the band, for sure.
yeah, man. Well, dude, you know, right? It's been a blast to hook up with you guys and jam, and especially, you know, it's very interesting coming from the two different I guess two totally different paths of like, you know, Stephen. I knew Stephen so casually from scrap metal, actually. He was one of the guest singers. So when I talked about that, that's where Stephen and I got to play together for the first time. And that was right about 2014, right around when I joined Whitesnake. And then we kind of, you know, he's always been cool to me, still is cool to me. I mean, you know, Stephen, man, he's so chill, and he's just always been great to me since we met. And I mean, we always got along. And
Right.
I guess, you know, I always looked at him as somebody I would work for or work with and be like, you know, but here I come in and I've got, you know, bandmates who know him so well. You guys really helped me feel a little bit more like at ease about the whole situation,
Sure.
rather than, you know, like if Matt and yourself were like, you know, me, just kind of guys who just were in there like, hey, we're kind of new, and it would feel a little bit more, I don't know, like,
Right. We
not,
could
you know, you
rest
guys are
your
like
mind.
a foundation, and you guys know Steven, and you guys, you know the gig itself so well. It's really important when you come in, man. And if people that like do that where they're like cool to you, like you and Matt have been to me, and I appreciate that, man. I really do, because it's like sometimes you come in and then people are just like, oh, this Johnny come lately guy, and it's like, you know,
They're not helpful.
I've always put my heart into what I do, man. It's really important to me, like on my own level, that, you know, everybody's happy with what I'm doing. In fact, that's more of my mindset as a player. I've always been a little bit of a people pleaser. Like, I'm not happy off of like what I think of it. I'm happy about like what everybody else thinks of it, you know?
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, that's just part of it. Like, I want to make you guys happy and make Steven happy. And that's where my mindset is coming into something like that, not going like, here's what I need to be happy. I've never
Well,
been able to
that's
be
a bit
that
of
guy.
advice, right? For aspiring guitar players that want to make an actual good living out of this. You better be a people pleaser, right? I mean, otherwise you're going to get the reputation of being a pain in the butt. And if that happens, you're not going to get as many calls, you know, or word gets out about it. You've definitely been great to work with, but I think that is something. I mean, people probably want to know what pitfalls are there, and being a whiner is definitely one of them, you know.
I mean, yeah, it's easy to fall into that. I've seen a lot of people go down that path that are just kind of perpetually unhappy, even when the surroundings are amazing. I don't want
Right.
to name names, but there's
No,
been
no, no, no.
people over the years where you're like, man, like, how are you not happy right now? Like, this
Yeah.
is great, you know?
Lost shares that attitude too. Of course, the on the West Coast TSO team, but I've heard that out of his mouth too. Like with our band, he's like, "How could anybody be unhappy? You're getting to play rock for a living. You're rocking on stage for a living. How could you not
Yeah.
just be all smiles every day? And you're actually getting paid to do it. You
Yes.
know?
Yeah. And that is always the challenge to continually remind yourself of that because you can get spoiled or jaded or yeah, I think it's just trying to put things in perspective all the time of what's really happening here and then really try to understand that and go, okay, teenage me looking at this, what the hell am I thinking? I'm thinking
Right.
that is insane, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way the teenage me would be able to wrap his head around like all the opportunities that I've gotten to go through. And some of them are maybe would be seen as like, oh yeah, I can see why that might have happened, or but I wouldn't have dreamed it could have. Especially coming from like a poor family and no connections and like
Right.
kind of living in the middle of nowhere and going like, I mean, the odds of anything happening with me, which I guess is also part of why I looked at like pro guitar player more than like rock star. I guess I was like thought the rock star thing was like, no, that's not gonna happen for me. That's like that's a dream, dude. Like only X amount percentage get to do that. So I kind of had committed to being like, I'll be a professional guitar player because that's my love. That's what I want to do. But I had myself involved in things that weren't glamorous, but were cool. Like, playing in like to get Rock of Ages, the really weird story is that I learned like pit scores. I was like subbing for a guy who's a pit musician. So I learned like, 300 pages of sheet music and like
Wow.
bust my ass like 8 hours a night for like 3 weeks to have an opportunity to maybe get in and fill in for him. And then be so nervous, you can barely play because you're like, oh my God, like I'm sitting here looking at sheet. It's not like I sit around with 300 pages of sheet music on a regular basis, but that's what led to Rock of Ages, man, because I made the Broadway contacts when that show happened for, the keyboard player from a show I was subbing on became the music supervisor. And it's weird. So sometimes weird things happen, man. Cher is totally one of those things. I mean, never would have been like when I was a kid playing Black Sabbath riffs, going like, someday I'm going to play with Cher. But when you get older, you learn to appreciate that kind of stuff. You go, that is a killer life experience, dude. I've played on the Billboard Music Awards with her and did a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, which is national TV, and the SNL 50 thing, which is national TV. And, that's insanity, man. And say what you will. Okay, people can poo-poo it. There's lots of people that still like make snide comments in the
Really?
comment sections about like, oh, now I know how to avoid having to play with Cher. And it's like, dude,
What?
whatever, man. It's
I
like,
remember this. I remember when you heard about you. I think the first time I heard about you was with Cher, and I thought, wow, that looked like an amazingly fun gig. I mean, just because on an iconic level, Cher is just such a superstar. Going back to the '60s, and her fan base is just crazy, and that must have been such an amazing experience. How long did you play for her?
So it was kind of like supposed to be a few shows that I was filling in for a guitarist, and then it ended up being a few years. And then that really kind of like took a hiatus at the top of COVID. And then suddenly out of nowhere, when it came time for her Hall of Fame induction, she thought of me and like asked me to play with her again. And I was kind of like, wow, my jaw was like literally on the floor because I hadn't talked to her in like 4 years or something like that. And I just was like, well, that was back then. But getting to go on and do that was a surreal experience and very cool. And the SNL 50 thing too, man. That backstage there was mental. Everybody that played on
Yeah,
that
tell us
and
about
just
that night. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us here tonight have seen that episode. Is
yeah,
there
I mean
anything?
just like literally just, you know, picture a backstage area with all those artists that were on it, you know. It's like there's Eddie Vedder over there, and there's Lady Gaga, and you know, hey, there's the comedians are running skits. There's Will Ferrell, you know,
Right.
running his skit, and like, you know, I remember talking with Bonnie Raitt for a while, and that was really amazing and surreal. You know,
I
she
love
was,
her.
me too, dude, and I literally hollered it out to her. Like I couldn't help myself. I love Bonnie Raitt, and so yeah, it's like back when the female pop stars had like, I'll say fucking like 100% substance. They weren't dressed like
Yeah.
fucking hookers to try and fucking
No.
sell records, right?
Right.
So, you know, Bonnie Raitt is an amazing musician. She's great fucking singer, great writer, you know, plays great slide guitar. I mean, the real deal. And so I just hollered out to her. She was like, so I walked through the room and I was like, I love you, Bonnie Raitt. And she like turned around. Then she came over and started talking to me, and I was like, sorry, I couldn't help myself, you know. You're
She was probably
awesome.
cool to you though, right?
Way cool. Yeah, way cool. We ended up like having like a, you know, I don't know, 5-10 minute conversation about everything. And you know, she was way cool about everything. So
I have met Eddie Vedder, which was, I mean, I guess that was kind of surreal in a way too. It wasn't at SNL, but Encinitas, where I went to school here in San Diego, he was from there too. He went to that same high school, and he had like a half brother that was closer to my age. And you know, you have your high school house parties and stuff like that. It was just like a regular house party, but this is like when the record 10 was out and they were like at their peak. And he walked in, I'm like, damn, that guy looks like a short Eddie Vedder or something. But it actually was him, but he was just kind of a little dude. Not that I'm a big dude, but I was like, wow. But he ended up being so cool. And we hung out. He like kind of honed in on me. Maybe he knew that I was a guy who probably had some weed or something. I don't know, but we smoked. He had his guitar. The guy hung all night. He was like the most humble dude ever. So I always, when his name comes up, I have to say that, tell that story. But I did get to meet that guy at his peak. But I can imagine like what you're describing, like how crazy that is. Just the level of seeing that many iconic people in one room. You're like,
yeah,
you must have
kind
felt
of
like
looking
you've
around
arrived.
and going like, man, I'm the least famous person in this room, right?
That's
like,
okay, right? In a way, like I
oh,
don't want to be
that's
necessarily the most
awesome. Are you
famous.
kidding?
Yeah.
No, it's the greatest. Oh, look at that. And firework emojis and everything. I didn't know StreamYard was gonna have that. Make that happen again. Now I won't do it, right?
Oh, weird.
Well.
That's crazy. Let me get a super chat from my super carrot here. She says, hello, Joel. Question. Can you tell the story of the video you played on that got 3 million views?
So, well, I got several of those, but like, you know, my first experience with that many views was kind of the Whitesnake stuff. Obviously, the Whitesnake videos definitely got there. But then she's probably referring to the COVID like collab jam stuff. And there's really a few of them because Dino Jalusic, who's, you know, was a part of TSO West. So Dino and I knew each other. He's amazing singer and talent. You know, plays, you know, great keyboards. In fact, I brought him in on Whitesnake for that final tour, the farewell tour, as, you know, second keyboardist, mainly I think to help out with vocals and whatnot. But incredible talent. So he had this idea of covering Jane with Mike Portnoy and asked me to be the guitar player on it. And I remember I was just all alone, just kind of like tonight in the old apartment, and right here, like laid down the tracks to Jane and filmed the little video for it. And I remember I had just got done teaching 6 lessons, just like right now, and just kind of going like, man, I was getting to the point where I was like, I'm feeling pretty cashed. Like, I guess that's good, like the outro solo. But I remember thinking to myself, man, maybe I should get back on that because it's like Mike Portnoy and like this is bound to get like a lot of views, you know? But I just kind of went like, you know, so cash, dude. And I never do that. I'm always
Close enough for rock and roll.
And and here I am thinking, oh, that might get some views, and it got like it's over 3 million now. But I also happened with my collab for the Steve Miller song Abracadabra that I remade with Arnel Pineda from Journey and Billy Sheehan, amongst some other great musicians. And that on Arnell's channel, I think is at 2-3 million, and on mine past 1 million. So that's like 3-4 million. And there's even one that we did of Stormbringer that I think is approaching those kind of levels. So that's another Dino, Tony Franklin, and this amazing drummer phenom, Virgil Donati. So when another little side road I had was when I started making my own music, it was kind of like instrumental fusion. I was kind of more in that world, like kind of that's more the direction TJ Helmrich had gone, and one of my other mentors, Brett Garsed. So I was kind of going down that road, making these kind of quirky instrumental tunes. Anyway, Virgil is, those that don't know, I mean, it's music isn't a competition, but he's one of the most incredible, inspiring musicians you'll ever run across. He's not like a guy who's concerned about what gigs he lands. He's a guy who concerns himself with practicing 8 hours a day, every day of his life. And he has done that from the time he was little. And he is just insane, and so he, goes around and does clinics and does his thing. And, he was playing for Alan Holdsworth there at the tail end of Alan Holdsworth's career, and played with Steve Vai for a while. Just an incredible drummer. So he's on that Stormbringer thing, and he's worth the price of admission alone. He's just an amazing drummer.
That's so cool. I grabbed this pick. It looks to be some of your main guitars that you've had over the years. I see the Whitesnake guitar there. Is that the one that's burned from the TSO?
No, so all 5 of those. So when I joined Whitesnake, I was like, well, what do I play? I thought Doug Aldrich was just playing a gold top, and a gold top is my main guitar, I thought. But, here's the problem. You go out there with the long blonde hair and the gold top, and what are you going to get from fans? Oh, Doug Aldrich wannabe, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, like, okay, the people also base that stuff on how you appear up there, not just your playing. Doug and I, in reality, don't play a whole lot alike. We have very different sets of, like, rock technique that we are based on. So, and I've dabbled in all these other styles, and kind of we're much different musicians, man. I love Doug. Like, he's an amazing talent, incredible. Right. But we're different, So I just thought, well, I don't want that. And then I thought, well, obviously it's kind of lame to go out there with a John Sykes model or something. But I thought maybe I could just have some guitars made for this thing. And so my initial plan was that black and white Les Pauls that you see there. And if you look, there's a medallion set into the bodies that are the Whitesnake emblem. And I had those made at a mint. So I got the artwork from David, and I had those made. So those are actual, like, kind of like medallions about yay thick that are routed by Gibson and set into the bodies. Fender as well. And the reason for the Strats is that we were making the Purple album. So I kind of thought, this might be cool if we're going on tour to be able to have Strats too. So why not get a black Strat, a white Strat, black Paul, and a white Les Paul? And Gibson came up with the idea for the snake stencil thing on the top. That is like a snake. It kind of almost looks like Asian writing or something. But if you look closely at it, you'll see that that's just kind of like an abstract. It's a snake. That's on the bodies of those guitars. And then that center guitar is a smaller company that I worked with for a long time, Atomic Guitar Works, just a couple of guys out of the Arizona area. And they had made me a guitar for TSO and for Rock of Ages. And they were like, hey, that was their idea entirely. They're like, what do you think about this? Swarovski crystal, purple for the Purple tour. We'll put the gold WS at the base. And then all the fret inlays are like, they asked me, I'm not an astrology guy at all. So some people, they'll like think I'm all, getting all into the mysticism and thing, but they took these astrological symbols that have things to do with my life. And they put
on
those
the inlays.
As the fret inlays. Yeah. So that's what you see on there. And so that became the Whitesnake collection. And that's pretty much what I played all the Whitesnake gigs on. Not pretty much, all of the Whitesnake gigs were played on those guitars.
That's so epic. I love the snake kind of arc. I didn't really realize that's what it was till you pointed it out.
It's
but
kind of easy to
super cool.
miss, man. It's kind of like you can look at that and think, okay, that's kind of cool. It looks kind of, modern art or something. But like once you really go, oh yeah, there's the snake head right there. I get it.
Yeah, I get it now that you pointed it out there. So these are just cased up right now in your pad, and I mean you have different tools for different trades
Yeah.
you're doing. Right now you have like a pretty cool Bumblebee EVH guitar that you brought out, and you also had a Warren guitar that's pretty sweet too. And these are both are the EVH American made?
Yeah. So I guess I came across that as like, okay, I want Floyd Rose guitars. I feel like the Rat music has the dive bombs, and Warren a lot of times will use the bar to, vibrato a note or whatever. So I was feeling like, you know, I kind of thought I'm far enough along that maybe that would be like a nicer gesture than like a derivative gesture, or in that I respect Warren DeMartini was the way I looked at
Right.
that, and for
Totally.
me that was fun.
Yeah.
How that's being perceived is like kind of mixed. It's kind of mixed at the moment. So who knows? Maybe I'll change that
Has
up.
somebody else said something? I mean, I know we were joking around about Steven wasn't sure what to think or whatever, but that's him. But did fans say something too, or
Yeah, yeah, I've read some people like, saying that's not cool playing a Warren DeMartini guitar. And it's like, man, all I'm doing is expressing my admiration for Warren DeMartini. And I kind of feel
yeah,
like I don't see the problem in that, but some people do. So I get it. Like, I guess maybe they view it like, that's, you're stepping on his territory or something. Whatever, man.
no,
That's
I
it.
can say that you sincerely were just kind of tipping a hat to him. I mean, I already knew this backstory, but I thought the people would like to hear it as well. Now, I think his swords guitar is probably even more iconic
Yeah,
for
more
him.
identified.
This
Yeah.
this one ended up being pretty cool. Like I'm used to you playing it now. At first I
Um,
didn't know what to think either, but I'm in the band, so it's a little different. My relationship with all the Rat guys, and this is different than the mega fans from the 80s. But I did notice you were kicking ass on this thing and having so much fun with this and the other guitar. When the first shows you play with us, I had my beat up Les Paul from the 90s, which you loved the tone of. You thought it was cool.
yeah.
But I have to admit, like I was like, man, I can't let Joel have all the fun, man, with the whammy bars and all this stuff. So I pulled my Charvels back out, and here's a recent photo from last weekend where you and I got the Charvels on stage.
Yeah.
Come on,
And,
Charvel.
and that ended up in the Charvel forum. And that's where one of the guys was like, Joel playing that, man, thumbs down. He should not be
Oh,
playing a war. And I was like, oh, come on, dude. So I actually engaged him on there. I was like, hey, man, like, for me, it's fun. I get to feel like excited that, I'm playing some of Warren DeMartini's parts, and I'm not trying to pretend I'm Warren DeMartini, or everybody's smart enough out there to know. I feel like, for fuck's sake, it's like
yeah.
you're not supposed to come off as some guy like, oh, maybe they won't notice, like everybody knows.
Well,
Everybody
we're
knows
like the
Warren.
next generation, though. Anyway, you know what I mean from
A
him,
little bit behind them. I mean, those guys were kids when they were making those records, and they were
right?
younger, but I was really a kid, like, I mean, when
Exactly.
Rat was breaking, I was a kid, man. So I mean, like, I was not old enough to be out doing it. So it's all done with love, and it's all done with respect. And it's also, I guess, as far as the EVH goes, kind of making a choice. Okay, some of our music, those that don't know, the low E is dropped a whole step, or the lowest string is dropped a whole step. And with a Floyd Rose, that's incredibly difficult to just go like, okay, let me just tune that up and I'll be in tune. There's these detuna devices that people use, but they don't work great. I've used them in the
Mm-mm.
past. And so I kind of was like, okay, I need two guitars with Floyd Roses. And my choices were like, in my collection, which is kind of right next to me here, like having a Gibson custom, like Access custom, and I was like, nah, like not really it. I got a Joe Satriani Chrome Boy. I'm like, no, like going into playing with Stephen Pearcy, playing a Joe Satriani guitar is weird. Um,
I love Joe
so
Satriani, though. By the way, one
me
thing I should
too.
interject here,
Yeah.
like Joel has like slipped to me that he has like text conversations with some of the biggest guitar players of my lifetime, like Steve Vai and Joel. He's like, oh yeah, we text each other every day on the phone. It's like, oh really? Jeez, must be nice.
Yeah, that's something that when I left Night Ranger, now here I'll give you an example, okay? With Night Ranger, I the same thing, man. I was like, okay, I've got the gold top Les Paul. Now I think those guys liked it. The fact that maybe, okay, long blonde hair, gold top Les Paul, maybe visually like Jeff Watson. So, but I don't
Or
look anything
Nugent.
like I don't look
Nugent a
anything
little
like
bit.
Warren DeMartini. So I mean, I guess for the Night Ranger thing, it was like, okay, maybe that makes sense. But for me, I was being told, do your own thing with solos. And I'm like, are you nuts? That don't tell me you love me solos like iconic. I'm not going to change that, or at least play it the best I can. And I always viewed it like I was trying to keep Jeff's legacy alive. And I let him
Sure.
know as much. When I left the band, I got this nice email from Jeff Watson out of the blue and saying what a good job he thought I did in that band. And so we really bonded immediately. And then he invited me onto this email thread that he has with a lot of great guitar players that happen to also be his friends. And so this is all really ode to Jeff Watson. But yeah, it's, Steve Lukather and Steve Vai. Steve Morris is Jeff's best friend, really. Bumblefoot's on there. Some other great players like Doug Rappaport and Steph Burns, and guys that maybe aren't as on that iconic level, but are incredible pros and incredible players who I admire. So having the opportunity to interact with those guys, that's called the thread, and this is like a regular thing. There's even some guys who aren't guitar players on, like Bob Daisley's on there. Obviously people know Bob from, early days Ozzy, like not only, being the bassist, but really having a lot to do with writing that music. It's been an honor for me to interact and get to know these guys. This has been happening now. I guess if I left Night Ranger in 2014, I've been emailing with these guys on a regular basis, almost daily for 12 years. So yeah, you do have a bond. It's a weird bond because it's primarily email, it's kind of, I guess, very nowadays, but I do feel like I have a relationship enough that so when Whitesnake was on the farewell tour, I was really the one to reach out to Steve Vai after I asked David Coverdale, of course, like, hey, we're on a festival together, dude. Like, would you want to get up with us? And Steve was all about it. And David kind of put me in charge of organizing it. So he said, whatever you and Steve decide, kind of thing. And so I had a similar meeting like
he was awesome in Whitesnake. Steve, when he played in Whitesnake, was super awesome.
Apples and oranges, man. There's a lot made about like Steve's fit in Whitesnake, but it really was great work in its own right. It's just a tough act to follow with John Sykes on that 87 record. It was just, kind of like, Whitesnake riffage and soloage perfection. The production of that record and the songs on that record were so
incredible. I think Still of the Night's like probably the best rock song ever written, really. I mean, in my opinion, just guitar wise, it has it all.
Can't argue.
Warren DeMartini did a very short stint in Whitesnake, which a lot of people might not realize, but there's a couple of YouTube videos, but it sounded pretty good from what I heard. I think with Warren, he's a guitarist that, like Hendrix doesn't want to always repeat himself, and in some of these gigs, they expect you to play note for note. Some they don't, like you're saying. Sometimes they go, hey, do whatever you want. And I think in some of the gigs, if from what I've heard, whether it was Whitesnake or Dio or whatever, him doing his own thing didn't fly with them as much, with those guys, and maybe that it wasn't a good fit.
David was very much like, Stephen has been with this. Like, don't worry about it. Do your thing, man. Warren jams. You can jam.
Wait, you're not going to do the accent? Come on, man. You're not going to do David Coverdale's
the Coverdale? No, David Coverdale, listen, you show up and you bring your talent. You bring your talent. Don't worry about a thing. You're going to shine. You're a star. Yeah.
Love it.
David's very encouraging. Great boss, man. I mean, I can't Steven's awesome, but I've only been here for like 7 shows or something like that. I got 12 years of Whitesnake. I can honestly say David is like,
he's
best boss.
He's like the Grey Poupon of the 80s rock singers, right? I mean,
I just as far as his level of support and what he expected, and just great dude, man. I got nothing bad to say about my time with him, man. We didn't have any problems. And that's funny when you're joining because, oh, watch out, man. You're like when I got hired, it was people are like, oh, this ought to last a week, like kind of thing before he's fired or, he quits or something. And, David and I did great, man. I think he was just looking for people who obviously, could play the music and looked the part, but they were grateful to be there and all
Right.
lined up with right where I was at the time. I just was really honored to be there, expressed it as such, made a point to tell him on a regular basis. And, I always like to say, I think it's good to do that stuff as long as it's not disingenuous, because I think that even the band leaders like somebody like David Coverdale could probably tell if you're forcing yourself to say, hey man, I just want to let you know I really like being here, man. You have to really mean it if you're going to say it to them. But I think it's easy when you are in a situation you are grateful to be there to express that and just say, man, I'm really happy to be here, man, and I just have to let you know, like, this is really beyond my wildest expectations. It really was. I mean, but there had been a lot of longevity with Doug Aldrich and with Reb Beach as well. I mean, Reb really, I mean, he's the longest serving member of Whitesnake ever, which is kind of odd. Most people would never think of that.
No.
But he was the guy that was with the band the longest out of anybody.
Did Winger take a big break or something that happened? I'm trying to remember the timeline for them.
Kip always was, worked around Whitesnake in that he has a very successful acoustic situation
Right.
where he can go out and do solo acoustic tours. And so when Reb was out with Whitesnake, and Whitesnake certainly during the Doug Aldrich time was a little bit more of an every other year kind of band. It wasn't like we're going to tour every year. It was kind of every 2 years. So then Winger could go, all right, we're going to air it out this year. And David was always great about telegraphing that and saying what the plans were going to be, and that led to the Cher thing, because I knew that, okay, 2017 he's getting double knee surgery, like replacement, so we're not going to be playing. So that gave me the opportunity to put out feelers to people like, hey, I don't really need a new gig, which is exactly what people want to hear if they're going to get a replacement. Like, I'm still in Whitesnake, but I kind of just need stuff to do this year. So if anybody needs a fill in, and that's kind of the way things worked out as far as going into Cher. It was more or less a fill-in thing. And it just kind of, the stars just kind of aligned. Her longtime guitar player, Dave Barry, was playing guitar on The Voice, and they needed him more. And she ended up like asking me to do more. And next thing I knew, I was with it for a few years.
That's so insane. I you know what? I can't help but think about her tattoo, her shit, the Cher, but like seeing that in person for the first time must have been like, wow, there it is.
I just tried to be very like, Cher's kind of quiet and shy. She's not loud and outspoken. She's not ever raising her voice. She's just kind of a very mellow, soft-spoken person, kind of shy. So yeah, I mean, I just tried to be the same way and not overstep that.
Not be the 80s rock douchebag guy. You were respectful and polite and a gentleman.
Yeah, I mean, being in any kind of pop band that people should realize is like, yes, okay, you're technically playing for that pop star, but it has a whole lot more to deal with, like working with the music director. Right. Whoever's in charge of her music, that's who your interaction is with. Sure. And it wasn't like I was going to text Cher some morning and be like, hey, you want to go out for coffee today and hang out and talk about the set tonight or talk about last night's gig. That's just not the way it works in something where a star is that big. So you're talking with everybody else. Is she happy? They can be kind of the middle ground and kind of let you know if there's anything that they want to have be different. But no, I think she really liked that I kind of came in doing the 80s rock thing. There was 2 step out periods. Like you'd step out for Turn Back Time with her that had to play out at the end of the show. And also the song I Found Someone, which is a good rock tune, And so I'd step out for those, but there was another moment where she had a wardrobe change you notice on these pop gigs, man, they're always finding
Changing
something to
everything.
happen for like
Right.
3 minutes while they're changing their outfit, right? And one of those was me kind of going out and holding the crowd. And I kind of excelled at that because I was used to that from gigs like TSO and Whitesnake, where you got to be super visual and
Hmm.
engage the crowd. And so they loved that I did that successfully, like kind of held the crowd and made them happy while she was doing her wardrobe change. And I think she liked the whole, she's a rocker chick at heart, man. I mean, there's a reason that she, dated Richie Sambora and dated Gene Simmons. And like I think she likes the whole rocker vibe. So when I showed up a little bit more with that, but still had the ability to play the other styles of music. I mean, you play a lot of different styles of music. You mentioned how long she was a star. It's kind of like
Right.
5 decades of music, dude. So,
Hmm.
you're playing all the way from, I Got You, Babe, which is kind of, that clean, like silver tone kind of sound, to playing disco stuff that she had done or dance stuff. I mean, you had to really.
Did you have a whole different setup than what you bringing out for Pearcy at the time? Like, what was your
Oh,
setup
yeah, yeah.
for Cher that you had going
Well,
pedal
initially
wise?
using Dave Barry's setup because I was filling in, and then they were going to be going to Australia, and they were like, "Hey, is there any way to make his rig smaller?" And I was like, "Well, I could take a Fractal X effects and try and program the sounds into that, like a modeling unit."
Yeah.
And they were thrilled with that, in terms of the lack of space that it would take up, as opposed to having an ISO cab and a head and a giant pedal board. And I still had a lot of guitars with her. I tried to keep that pretty consistent to what Dave had done. Dave was a
She did
great player, and
she did like tour bus tours though, right? It was with the bus and taking production
lot
and
a
everything.
lot of Vegas residencies was how it started, and that also was sometimes out east at National Harbor. And then she decided she wanted a tour because she did this ABBA album, and so we went out and toured. And that was when I really realized how big she was, because like, the residencies were one thing. We're playing in like a, I don't know, 2,000 seat place, and it was always packed and all that great stuff. But when you go out and tour with her and you're going to a city for like one show, that's when you realize like, oh my God, we're playing for 23,000 people tonight. And
Yeah.
the next night's 20,000 people. I mean, it was just huge, And like, I mean, they were selling upper deck kind of around behind you and everything. You kind of be like looking behind you and see people that have bought seats back there.
That's
So,
so
yeah.
rad. I'm going to take some questions here now because I've been leaving my chat out. RDT, which by the way, RDT, I did send you out your mystery box from the Fright Bite. We have a mystery Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of Misfortune, excuse me, and RDT was one of the winners. So I did go to the post office and send that out to you, buddy. RDT saying, I met Joel in Vegas at Raiding the Rock Vault. It was his first night, and I was in the front table right next to him, and he tore it up and even gave RDT's girlfriend a pic. That's pretty
Nice.
cool.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad I did so. Yeah, that was something that like early on I was like, all right, I'd like to hit that gig and do that sometime. Sometimes they bring in special guests, and that was
Right.
kind of the way it was presented. It was like, hey, we'll have you in as like a special guest for like 2 weeks. Because by the time you learn something that extensive, you're like, all right, I've got it. It's a lot more complicated than people realize when you learn shows like that. There's in-ear count-ins and clicks that happen that are based on the video happening behind you or the
Right.
production. So it's a little more complex than people realize. Same with Rock of Ages. That was a show that people would, they go, okay, they're just playing this, but what they don't realize is that you're vamping on like two measures of music while the actors are saying their lines. And when it's getting to the end of the line, this guy in your in-ears is going to count you out of that section to finally go to the
Right.
next section of the song. So there's a lot of things that happened. And even with blocking with Rock of Ages, there was all kinds of things like at a moment you'd have to move a mic stand to the front of the band platform because an actor was going to get up there in the next song and sing on it. And they liked it moved kind of out of sight. And if you forgot to do it, that was a huge mess up. The
Right.
guy'd get up there and be like, they'd miss the line and people would be mad. So stuff like that was always a really big deal. So yeah, had a great time getting the Rock Vault showdown and going out and playing with those guys out there. Great bunch of guys, man. Getting out there with Todd Kearns, my buddy, and Keith St. John, and of course Blas, man. Blas is
Yeah.
holding it down on drums for the most part.
Bloss does it as well. And yeah, Bloss is the one that got us doing the in-ears because he's so used to doing it with TSO and everything. And he's like, this is the standard now. And he even kind of told me, he's like, if you were ever to go and do one of these other gigs, like Raiding the Rock Vault or something, you're going to need these. And so I threw down for it. I mean, I've only been using these since 2024, and I went with Ultimate Ears, give them a little plug, and it was pretty cool.
Too. We'll give a double plug. Yeah.
I went into the Anaheim office, and they just did a 3D thing. They didn't even have to do the gushy molds or whatever. They just 3D scanned my ears, and it was a worthwhile investment. After using them for these last 2 years, I'm definitely overall more comfortable playing on stage. It was so weird at first, but what I love about it is, we talk about how important it is to perform on stage and run around, and it's so cool to have the sound the same for you everywhere you are.
Yeah.
I love that.
You can cross the stage. I'm kind of torn on it. Because I do a lot of gigs with in-ears. So I'll go do TSO, and that's 50 something shows on that tour with in-ears, and certainly Rock of Ages we had to wear them, and Rock Vault, and Whitesnake was all in-ears. Night Ranger was in-ears, except for like the first year or something I was with the band, we were still wedges. But now it's getting to the point where I get to have an opportunity to go play like gigs with the Rock of Ages band or with Brandon, where we're no in-ears and we just use wedges. And it's like, I love it, because it's like, it brings back the old school thing. It's like, oh my God, this is kind of like, reminds me of the way it was. And so I see it both ways. I understand the value in the in-ears, but I sure do enjoy just kind of like hearing the breath of it and not feeling so, in-ears can psych you out a little bit, because you hear a lot more subtlety and you hear a lot more things that you think if you have yourself loud in the mix, you think, oh my God. And it really wasn't that big a deal in the house or like out in the room. And
if you can ballpark it to sound okay in your in-ears, it probably sounds amazing out front.
Yeah.
But the first couple of times of going into your solo, it's like so dry and weird. It's like when you're recording at home and you're hearing some of the dry signal, along with the guitar. It just throws you off a little bit. Eventually you get used to it. There's a couple tricks they could do too to make it a little less jarring, putting some reverb or something on it. Plus whatever. You're hearing your effects too, but just overall, Matt's been good in our band with making sure it sounds decent, the overall mix. Plus we have our at least I have the iPad, which is pretty great. You could, as Joel was saying, you get a mix of everyone. Each guy has his own individual mix, and you could just set it. And when we bring our own splitter, like Matt does, basically every gig's about the same. I don't even really change too much, from show to show. The next gig that you can see Joel and I tear it up at is going to be in Hollywood, baby. It's going to be at the Rainbow Birthday Bash, right out in the parking lot there. Pretty insane. We're gonna have our in-ears for that. I didn't think we were going to, but apparently we are. So that's cool. We got to be up there early for a sound check, and then I think we're playing a little after 8 or something. But there's some great bands on the bill. Sherry Curry, Flotsam and Jetsam, I Hate God. But that's pretty much the place to be for everybody up there to go old school Hollywood. So I'm looking forward to that. But you and Brandon are going to be at the Monsters on the Mountain this week, right?
Yeah, this weekend I'm going to be doing 2 gigs with Brandon at the Monsters on the Mountain, or Mountain.
It's Monsters on the Mountain, I think.
I think it's called Mountain Music Festival now.
Oh.
The Mountain Music Festival is like sort of the new name, I believe.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
And I'm doing a guitar clinic there, which is kind of cool. I guess there's some prestige associated with that, because the guys doing it are like George Lynch and Reb Beach and myself. So,
nice.
Honored to keep that company. Would do that. And then, oddly enough, man, I ended up hooking into this session in Nashville after that. So I'm going to, rather than fly home, which I thought I was going to do, I changed my plans, and I'm going to drive from Knoxville to Nashville and do like a 2-3 day session there, recording with some people. So You know, excited for that. Sometimes these things that come out of nowhere, man. I tell you, it's interesting building these random years that I
Right.
do.
You're an adventurer though, Joel. I noticed. Like, I don't know if I'd call you an adrenaline junkie, but you're just down for whatever. You'll jump in a car, a plane, a train, spaceship. You don't care. You love it. You love the whole life of being a musician, traveling, the whole experience of it. I can tell you're a
I
lifer
guess
at this.
I guess the thing, yeah, I've learned that is like try your best at every turn. And you never know where things will lead, man. And sometimes it's unforeseen things, it's things you can't even imagine. Like we mentioned, you know, Rock of Ages on Broadway or Cher that's not stuff that was like someday I'm gonna make it to Broadway when I was a kid, you
Right.
know, but they turn out, dude, I'm telling you, man, that had everything to do with like, okay, so during Rock of Ages, all the bands. Well, I'll tell you about a couple life experiences. This is a good one. So in
Okay.
2011, there was Night Ranger, Foreigner, Journey on tour, and because at Rock of Ages, Dee Snider joined the cast for a while. His manager, Phil Carson, manages Foreigner, and so Phil was around and saw me playing a couple bits of Foreigner songs in the show. Next thing I know, fast forward to we're on tour, and Mick Jones went down on that tour and they
Okay.
needed somebody to fill in Foreigner. And there I am. And Phil's going, I've seen this guy playing Foreigner. He's out on tour with us already. So the next thing I know, I had like 24 hours notice to get the Foreigner set together and be on in place of Mick Jones,
Wow.
which was like kind of insane. Like, you know, it was literally a day to get it together and not only do that, but play the Night Ranger set before it. Um, so I was stressing my ass off, dude. It was like 18,000 people. And all the Journey guys are on the side of the stage like this, you know, like checking it out, being like, this ain't gonna work. This guy's only had a day to get it together, man, you know.
They want to see
Uh,
the carnage.
right. So exactly. Just trying to be like, is this just gonna be brutal? But that worked out. And then not too long after that, the tour stopped in New York. And on the off night, everybody from Foreigner and Journey and Night Ranger came down to the show and I played Rock of Ages because I technically was holding down the gig. I had subbed it out, but I was like, hey, the tour is going to be in New York. I'm going to play Rock of Ages. And all the guys were there. You know, you got Neil Sean sitting there in the audience, like watching you.
Oops.
It was a great opportunity for me to get to know a lot of the guys in the bands, you know, like when you were holding down Rock of Ages, and not only that, but getting a cameo in the movie and all that great stuff. It led to a lot of really, really great life experiences. So yeah, it wasn't like being in a band. It wasn't as rock and roll as being in a band. Totally true. I get it. Like I get why people would bag on it, but like as
I
far
would
as like
never bag on it.
but as far as life experience and like and what it brought to me as far as being in bands or like respect in that world, it brought a lot, you know.
I love the idea of like going home in my own bed at night. You know, that sounds pretty great because some of the places you got to stay in are not great. We got to see your neck of the woods when we were waiting for Stephen to get in on his flight because we flew into LaGuardia, and David, the tour manager, said, "Hey, let's go into Manhattan." And you were driving, so you weren't with us on this trip. But for everyone that watched Road to Ridgefield this week, which great numbers for my little channel, you know what I mean? It's hit 10,000 views today, so I was excited for that. But we got to go down and see where the Lion King is. You know, you told me your wife works for that or on that and everything. But it was something else being down there. There was some comedic relief. David yelling at the guy blocking the left lane with his Chinese guy with his cart. He was
That's
like,
not
"Fuck
unusual.
you!" Yeah, people.
That's
You
not
had some.
unusual either.
You were cracking me up with I don't know if you were impersonating a guy that was hearing you through the pipes at the place you're at now, or if this was a Chicago story, but you're hilarious. Like when you do some of your impersonations, like, I don't know if you can remember this one, but you were telling me like about the guy who could hear you through the pipes. If you could do that impression, that was really good.
Sure, me too.
It was like a New York impression. You're going, "Oh yeah, you were doing the wheel through the pipes."
Oh, you're the fucking guy. You're the fucking. I fucking. Oh Jesus, you sound fucking great. I don't fucking know. what a fucking, fucking Stephen Peapod, fucking ratt and shit, and fucking, I don't know. Michael Devin and I, one of the best things about being in Whitesnake is that you just inherently start to talk like David Coverdale, because like you hear him, and it's not like it seems mean, but like we all just be walking around the bus going, wonderful, absolutely wonderful snakes, and so all of us, and to the point where we're all, it's like putting like 4 Coverdales together, 5 Coverdales on the bus, and that went on like that for really the entire time I was with the band. You find it almost impossible to stop talking like David. And I mentioned that on that guitar thread. I talked about the Steve Vai. I said, man, I said, I don't know about you guys, like back in the heyday, I said, but we pretty much all just like can't stop talking like David. It's like we're all like addicted to it. It's like completely crazy. And Steve said it was exactly the same back then. He's like, we were all just like on the band bus, because David had his own bus, and so they were all just on the bus talking, doing their Coverdale impressions. Yeah, most of the impressions I have tend to be kind of like inside jokish. Like I can imitate all my TSO bandmates, but like the joke would be lost here, right? That's like the curse I have. I get really good with the imitations, but it's usually like inside joke kind of imitations.
Pearcy's hard to do. I mean, we all try, but it just ends up being like, but it's not really what he sounds like.
I haven't even begun yet, but I am that guy that tends to like forge, imitations as I'm in bands and like gravitate towards doing that. Yeah, it's just like part of the fun, man. I don't give a shit if people do it with me either, man. It's all part of being in a band. You just got to be able to laugh at yourself and laugh about the whole thing.
You got to keep people's spirits, your bandmates' spirits high out there, and keep everybody in a good mood. And I enjoy hearing all your stories and especially the impersonations and stuff. Keep me rolling. T-Cuz is saying, hi, Erik and Joel. Thanks for melting our faces. Much joy. A musical inspiration of Joel's nobody would expect. Joel, I'm from Lafayette, hometown of TSO alum vocalist Kelly Keeling. Great talent.
He is a great talent. Absolutely, yeah.
Tom P. TSO is mostly all jam and not as much singing. So I don't know if that's true. Probably half and
there's
half.
There's a lot of instrumentals as opposed to like a standard band gig. So I mean, he's correct in that. There are a lot of instrumental songs.
Big Stu's World. I have some amazing rock star photos of Joel with TSO. He has the rock star poses down perfect. Yeah, I mean, you do have that going for you. Even today when I was like, hold on a second. What am I doing here? Let me get rid of this one and add something else. I was just looking for, I didn't get rid of it. I put it up there. Hold on. Sorry, folks. Cool. I was looking at just all your photos and stuff from your Facebook, and you do have all the rock poses completely down in a good way. And what I love about it is it's like forcing me to step it up, just being on stage with you. Like I could finally go, okay, here's another guy who's pushing us to be the best we could be. Oh, that's probably not the best one to put up there for a rock. That's
the somber,
right?
Yeah, that was very constructed on a Revolution Saints photo shoot. I mean, Enzo, Frontiers photographer, was
right.
Like, now cradle it. Now, it's one of those pictures you're taking where you're like, this has got to look so fucking stupid. What am I doing? But like, he told me exactly how to pose, and son of a bitch, if it didn't turn out to be a pretty cool photo in its own way, I guess.
Right. Well, let's be honest. Like, guitars are like a beautiful woman to us. I think, you know what I mean? It's like they're feminine to me in a way, just the curves. When you look at a guitar, it's like the hips and the top half. And it was love for me for sure at first sight, just like you. I look at that picture of you as a kid in the Aussie shirt, and I have a shot like that too that people love seeing on my Facebook, where I'm in like the Slayer shirt and I got the guitar and I'm sitting on my little crate amp, and for me, it's like, people have heard the story, it's really serendipitous, but Pearcy moving in across the street from me when I was 15 in my
right
neighborhood in like 1987, which is like a peak, year for them of ratt, just how crazy that is fate wise for something like that to happen. But me being a little kid, just turning up the amp when I'd see him out walking his dog, I would be like doing the whammy bar, just anything to get his attention. And then we'd be in the garage playing like Metallica songs and For Whom the Bell Tolls and stuff. And he would hear us jamming and he'd be like, "Hey kids, come on over." And he'd like record us at his house. And he was always so supportive. But would end up 10 years later giving me this huge break that I wasn't even sure if I wanted, really. I mean, at that particular time in the early 2000s, rock music was not the cool thing, the 80s rock thing. It wasn't, I'd say, until probably around 2005 or 6 that people really started to miss the whole 80s thing. And it made a resurgence. It's been a long ride with him. When I got the gig, I knew I better hold on to this with both hands because, as you were saying, so few people get to do this for a living. And he had told me straight away from the first night I played, he's like, "That was great. You can play with me for as long as you want to." And I was like, "Well, that's going to be forever, bud." And,
awesome.
Yeah. So here we are. We got the new album. Stephen signed a Virgin, which is probably this is going to be the biggest record that I've contributed to. But the other one would have been Frontiers kind of level thing. But this is going to be a whole nother level. I think there's going to be exciting things for you and I with Stephen, coming this next year, 2027. We got a new agency now. Stephen's with TKO at the moment. So that's a recent change. So that's why you haven't been seeing a lot of the band. It was just because we had some agent changes going on behind the scenes, but they're definitely a powerful agency. So you're going to see us a lot more soon. And we're super excited about the record. You had mentioned Tony Franklin earlier. I was so bummed because there's this song that he played on that was amazing. We just kind of ran out of time vocally for Stephen to get something on it. It'll probably get on the next thing. And I think you might even had something to do with that one too.
That was Tony on there? Okay.
Yeah, you could tell, right? It was like fretless bass going on. Was it?
Well, I thought it was Matt, and I was thinking, oh, look at Matt holding back and like playing fretless and playing the harmonics and stuff. I didn't really know that there was going to be bass guests on there. That song had a vibe though, man. I'm kind of disappointed that one maybe won't make the record, but it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, there'll be more records. I'm sure I didn't get the specifics on this deal he signed, but it's never usually a one album thing. There's usually options and stuff. But I know that the label's like super excited about this. We're super excited to say that it's not AI. We actually wrote these songs, But a lot of cool things are going to be coming down the pike for the band. So, but I'd say overall, the excitement of having you involved has been huge. And we're super stoked you took the gig anyway.
Hey, man, I'm super stoked to be with you guys. I've had a lot of great opportunities, and this is really like another chapter that, maybe maybe I wasn't seeing coming at the time, and suddenly it's like, oh, okay, I get this great opportunity. And, I really appreciate you guys, being so cool with me and still understanding, hey, this is the new guy, but like, my heart's always in the right place when I'm in with something, man. I want to do right by, like, everybody else. I want to do right by you guys, by Stephen, by the fans, and, pay my dues, so to speak,
Well, you're pulling your weight. You're punching above your weight even, nothing to worry about there. I think just sometimes getting some new blood is just helpful too. A lot of us have been involved with the band for a long time through the ups and downs. It's cool to have a guy come in that's just excited to be there, and it just kind of spreads. I mean, overall, the vibe has just been really good with this lineup, and I just see it more and more. I mean, everybody's like, "This lineup's incredible," and that's the feedback we want to see out there. T-Cuz filling in for Alex Skolnick is quite something. He is the cleanest, rippinest thrash lead guitar, in my opinion. So clean. Testament is tops for me. Yeah, Joel loves thrash metal too, by the way. He's not all.
I love Alex. I agree. I think Alex is my favorite thing about him is that he took that time to devote to, like, his secondary passion, which was like playing jazz with
Right.
guitar. In fact, Alex is like went way further with jazz than I did. I can actually play like straight ahead jazz. Like if you open the real book and we had to like play a jazz tune, I can make my way through the changes and like navigate through playing that style of music. But Alex is like, really went into like studying jazz. Like got his degree in it, I believe, kind of after the fact, after being this well-known guitarist. So I took one of my students recently who's an exceptional virtuoso kid. He's like 15 years old. He's just destroying. I mean, he's just like raging good for 15 years old. And he's interested in jazz too. So I was like, look, man, go take your jazz lessons with Alex. So Alex and I just texted, but 3-4 days ago or something like that, and hooked that up that he can take his jazz lessons with Alex. And I said, and while
Wow.
you're at it, get his rock chops, because his rock chops are completely different than mine.
Right.
Alex and I, again, there's everybody's got their own little bags, man. Even when it comes to like playing rock lead guitar, we all have our own things that we do, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, get Alex's stuff too, man. I think a kid that age, when you find a 15-year-old who's just destroying, the last thing I want to do is like, hold the kid back with his potential. So I'm just like, trying to help him. And not only that, but put him with somebody like Alex Skolnick, who's a world-class player, to help him and maybe also kind of spread the word on the kid that he's, really extraordinarily talented for a 15-year-old kid. I mean, I've already had him sit in with Broadway's Rock of Ages band and do like a full-on guitar trade-off with me alone on stage, where we shred back and forth and stuff. He's that.
Is he a New York kid? Is he a New York?
No, he's a
Oh,
Northern California kid.
okay.
And yeah, I mean, I've through this teaching thing, there's some success stories. There's some people. It's really fun to watch. This kid in particular is really, I think, got a bright future. At that age, I look at him and I'm like, dude, I wasn't doing that when I was 15. Like, no. So I mean, so anyway, Alex and I interacted recently, and I love Alex. Ton of respect for Alex, and amazing musician. So.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the better lead guitarists as far as the thrash guys went. I was surprised Testament wasn't bigger. I mean, they're considered one of the big four, I guess, but when I'd go see him play, they were playing theaters and stuff, at least in San Diego. I would go see him at the California Theater, but he definitely was probably above the other guitarists in the big four. Anthrax and Metallica, just his lead style was so insane. Those were just great times of MTV, the Headbangers Ball. I would tape that off my VCR, just dream about being in a heavy metal band like that. It's so cool that we get to do this for a living. All right, before Joel gets out of here, I'm going to take some more comments from the chat. We got Susie Mosher here. I know I was thrilled when Joel joined Pearcy's solo band. He got the best. Fun watching Erik and Joel jam. Yeah, I got to step it up, but I love it because, again, as Joel mentioned, it's like you don't. Sometimes not being the most famous guy in the room isn't so bad. When I look in this band and look around at the talent in it, and I go, man, you're right there. Learn from these guys. Just get better and never give up. That's really the motto, right?
All right. Side note, real quick. I've explained to Erik. I'm like, you realize I'm still trying to catch up to you guys in terms of like how well you know this gig and everything, right? So, anyway, with all due respect, man, that's definitely working both ways right now, bro, for sure.
Big Stews says it's incredible the guitar players that you've stepped in for in the past. Was there anything different about learning Warren's parts as opposed to maybe some of these other bands, Night Ranger and Whitesnake and everything?
Yeah, I mean, so Whitesnake had various versions of songs, and like if you take a song like "Fool for Your Lovin'," there was that was on different albums and recorded different styles. And so what happens there, you got a Vi solo to it, and you got like, I guess, a Bernie Marsden, and it's like it just kind of opens up like, okay, like you could really play that solo any way you want, I guess, at the end of the day. You could quote the Vi thing, you could go. So I would say there was a little bit more of a looseness with Whitesnake in terms of what you could do. Now, you wanted to try and cop the hits, the psych stuff. If it was only recorded one way, it was like, okay, well, you know, do your best to
Still of the
try and
Night, you
sound
got to
like
play
that.
Sykes lead on Still of the Night.
I mean, I try now. I can't pick as fast as John on that opening run, so I basically painstakingly learned what all the notes were and played them all legato as best I could to try and still cop like that actual really fast run, and certainly the ending run. You know, that's that signature melodic stuff. But yeah, you know, you do these things, I guess, within. You get to a point where you realize like everybody's going to have some kind of physical limitations where they play like themselves, and when you get to the greats, it's really hard to be like, oh yeah, sure, I play exactly like them. It's like not necessarily going to be the case, but you
Right.
do, like, you want to get as close as possible, I think, within what you're doing. Now, I can honestly say since Night Ranger, where they wanted pretty much, now Jack Blades and Kelly Keagy were like, don't worry about it. Just do what you want. Like, I mean, they were like, you could blow off the 8-finger solo and, you know, Rockin' America. I was like, no, I can't. Those are signature solos, man. So I spent a lot of time doing as best I could with Jeff Watson's solos in Night Ranger. And this is really the first time since then where I've tried my best to really emulate somebody else, to try to emulate Warren. And it's been a great learning experience. I've really enjoyed it. You know, I didn't have as much time as I wanted to do that with the solos going into the first, I'd say, show. And then I kind of like learned all the solos really between show 1, 2, and 3. But it was like in that stage of like, oh my God, I'm a little tentative. I'm a little nervous trying to play the solos. And now the more time I'm getting in the band, the more like it settles in and I'm feeling more confident. And now I'm almost having to remind myself, dude, don't be so anal about it and just relax and rock and have fun.
You
Like,
sounded more relaxed. This last weekend of shows, I just thought you sounded 10 times smoother all around. I mean, not just the solos. I mean, I don't think people even notice little things on the solos. Really, it's the other 3 minutes of playing you got to do. You know what I mean? All the rat riffs and stuff. I mean, they just sounded like you're just more comfortable playing them, and now you're just having fun up there with the performance part.
I mean, I am. That was, I'd say the last 2 gigs were the ones where I really made a designated effort not to think so much about, oh my God, let me, how close can I get this solo? Like, you know, panicking in my practicing. Cause I do play a lot of different sets of music and do other things like teach and do sessions. And so it's not like I sit around with like, okay, I've got 12 hours every day to dedicate to this, because that would just be flat out laziness if I did. But I do play a lot of different music. So for me to get it there is usually like, okay, and then this period of time in the day, I will work on Stephen's stuff and let me just really shed. So I think at the last 2 gigs, that's accurate, that I started feeling a little bit more of a looseness and like, you know what? Like, I want it to be like Warren, but like I do want to just enjoy my time on stage and rock out and not lose the attitude of like the fact that we're playing a rock show and this is supposed to be fun. And I want to engage with the fans. So I feel like the last couple of gigs for me was kind of where that started to click the most. Yeah.
If you watch, I don't know if when you're prepping for this gig, if you looked back at any of the arena shows from Ratt back in the early 80s, but man, they were incredible. Like live, the whole band was all over the stage. Warren, everybody, obviously Juan was crazy on stage, Robin. And, you know, through the years, I think that kind of got lost as the bands aged and stuff till, I mean, Warren still actually goes out, like recently on these DeMartini shows. He's actually been running around. As you mentioned, he was really young then, so now he's not super old now. He's still kind of going around. But overall, when I've seen the different lineups of Ratt, it got a little more subdued over the years when really they visually used to put on a hell of a show in the 80s. So it's kind of cool that we're kind of bringing that back with this lineup. I'm starting to see something similar there, which is part of the whole 80s rock show that we're trying to give. Here's a serious question from Kevin Smith. He's got a question for Cole. Did you go to MIT or any music school, and do you still play with Michael Sweet? You
So,
know.
so yeah, GIT, so Musicians Institute has underneath it GIT, which is the Guitar Institute of Technology, PIT, percussion, BIT, bass, KIT, etc. So I went back when it was a 12-month program to GIT, so MI. And honestly, I'd had a teacher for about a year before that who knew the curriculum. I wanted a jump start, and he was teaching me a lot of it. And so I spent a lot of time playing guitar that year, a lot of time smoking pot, and a lot of time like recording on my 4-track as it is. And I
Nice.
did go to my classes and stuff. I played a lot. I mean, I was on my guitar 8 hours a day, but I wasn't so like, oh my God, I'm studying, right out of the book. And I was really like, I just want to play guitar 8 hours a day. I'm in Hollywood. I had a great time. And as far as playing with Michael Sweet, we're still technically have a new album out together right now. Iconic 2, the name of the album, the band is Iconic, and that's Tommy Aldridge on drums and Marco Mendoza on bass, and Michael Sweet and I sharing guitar duties, and then Nathan James is the vocalist on that.
Nice.
So there's a new record out with that. And Michael and I kind of forged a relationship because I think he's always keeping an eye on people like that are up and coming and stuff. Because he was in Boston for a while, not the city, but the band. I don't know if people remember when Michael Sweet was in
I saw
Boston
him
for a little
with
bit.
them. It was pretty incredible. I was almost like, is he really playing guitar? Because he had a Les Paul Jr., if I'm not mistaken, while he's playing that. And he never tuned it like one time. He went through the whole show without tuning that thing, sang great. I mean, it was actually a pretty cool concert. The only weird thing about it was I remember the woman I went with, we were a little bit late. The band had already started. And I remember the whole amphitheater was sitting down, like,
Mhm.
and we just stuck out like sore thumbs. I felt like everybody was looking at us like, wow, you're late. And it was just kind of like showed that the fan base had aged of Boston to the point where they were just now sitting down at this. I was expecting to go to a full-blown rock show. I mean, they're rocking songs. I love Boston.
Well, this was like a one-off bill in a sense. It was Alan Parsons, Night Ranger, Styx, Boston. I think the main tour might have been Styx, Boston. Maybe Alan Parsons was part of that main tour. I'm not quite certain, but Night Ranger was like added to it, right? So we go in and we played this gig at Cynthia Woods Pavilion. I'm not sure if you've ever played that in Texas, but I got this email from Michael Sweet through my website. Like he must have just gone to my website and looked me up, but he emailed me through a cold. He was like, "Hey, I was side of stage for your set, and I just want to let you know I really was impressed. You played great, and did a great job with Night Ranger." And so we struck up a friendship and started doing things. Like the first thing I did with him was mime in his videos. He had done the guitars, but he was like, "Hey, I'm doing a video shoot for this song, and it's Kenny Aronoff on drums and James Lomenzo on bass. Will you just act like you're playing the guitars?" And I was like, "Yes, I want to come hang out with all you guys for a day." So, and as it turns out, another one of the videos was with Dave Mustaine's daughter, Electra. So Dave was at the video shoot too, and we ended up all going out for dinner
Nice.
and sat next to Dave Mustaine at dinner. And so that was really kind of cool. So, and then the next record, he had me do some playing on it. I didn't write, but I played on it, and then we shot videos together. Like that video radio that's out there. That's kind of a fun watch, kind of a spoof on like Rock Guys Going Country. And then the next record he actually started asking me to co-write with him and write riffs, and from there we started this Iconic thing together. And so we've been working together for a while, and it gives me a run for my money with hardest working man in the business. I mean, Michael's got relentless work ethic. He works really, really hard.
That's so cool. Ted Ferrer say, Joel, did you already own the Charvel Blood and Skull San Dimas guitar, or did you acquire it when you joined Stephen Pearcy?
No, I bought it, man, because I was like, let me think, like, what would be cool? And like I said, the other Floyd Rose guitar I didn't have a chance to say is like a Phil Collin model Jackson. I was like, okay, so I got this Phil Collin model, I got this Satriani model, I got that, Access Les Paul. I was like, none of these seem right. And I was like, why don't I just get like a Warren D. Martini guitar and like screw it, man. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like we're far enough along in like where we are that people, obviously, I'm not trying to be a Warren DeMartini, like pass myself off as him. I look nothing like him,
No.
man, and like, so I just thought, hey, if it's done respectfully and people understand that, then for me, that was not a problem. Like I said, maybe we'll figure that out. If it continues to be something I got to read about people being upset about online, then maybe I'll make a change next year or something.
I don't.
But
I
for
say don't
me,
even feed the trolls. Really, I try not to. I think I definitely don't. When people comment on other platforms, whether it's Blabbermouth or any of that kind of thing, I will not touch it like that. They're free to do that. The only time I get kind of bummed out is when they come here to the Unleashed channel and leave some kind of bad comment, because this is my home. This is my house. You don't show up to my house and spray paint your dumb comment that no one cares about on my house. I will take that off. There was maybe once or twice this week where they said something where I was like, oh, and I like wrote something back, and then I wait and I go, why am I even giving power to this? And I just kind of muted them from the channel. But in a way, I guess at the end of the day, all y'all that do that sort of thing, I just want you to know that you feed my fire. People like you that do that. You're just shoveling coal into a fire that's going to melt your face if you keep it up.
Well, I've been through a lot, in terms of replacing guitar players, like basically filling Jeff Watson's shoes and basically, hopping in for Alex Skolnick with TSO and, filling in for, I guess filling Doug Aldrich's shoes to a degree with Whitesnake. So I definitely have like a thick skin with it. My general rule of thumb is don't give it much credence if you read it once or twice, but if you read it like 5 or 6 times, 7 or 8 times, 10 times, 15 times, 20 times, you might want to start listening. So like it depends how much you read things, and then because then sometimes that's a decent critique and you can learn from it, and there's nothing wrong with that.
How do
Like
you
if
know it's not one guy with 15 accounts?
I don't, but my point is I guess like I'm not beyond like learning. That was part of the learning curve, I think, with TSO in the early going. I'll give you the perfect example. So when I joined TSO, I was coming off, playing with Night Ranger and Rock of Ages, and I was making the scowling faces, and I was looking, trying to be tough and be like,
yeah,
and all of a sudden you look out and you realize, there's a 75-year-old grandmother with her 3-year-old granddaughter, and I'm scaring this child, So you start to realize, like, what's with this guy? There was a lot of commentary on that, does he think he's like in like a metal band or like, because it's like, and then you go, okay, all right, let me soften this up a little bit. And I always was fairly smiley in Night Ranger and definitely in Whitesnake too. And that's part of my persona. I just let it come through more. I was like, okay, so relax, smile at the people, engage with them. Like there's nothing wrong with learning from stuff like that.
Sure.
I view it like, I was like, okay, so I'm going about this wrong. Like, let me, and that helped me immensely, because then once people saw that I am kind of that guy, like, when I play, I'm having a good time and I smile and engage, that suddenly made me a lot more relatable with the fan base. They were like, oh, I love him. He's always smiling. He always looks so happy. And it's like, well, it always was that. It just kind of both, I guess simultaneous. You just kind of pick what you want to like portray on stage.
Well, I think it was the Ridgefield show. I noticed as the crowds are aging, when we came out, they were going to be sitting down. They were kind of sitting when we first came out. And I was like, oh no. You off now! I scared them up onto their feet. I'm like, that's not happening tonight, folks. Kick your rockers to the side.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
That's Chris Caffery's amazing with that, with TSO as well.
Somebody, what did I see? Spicoli here. I always have to do my Spicoli drops for Spicoli.
I know that, dude. Hey, bud, let's party.
He wants to know which one of your bandmates ever had the biggest entourage of people around them.
Well, I mean, we got to go with Cher for counting Cher as a bandmate. I mean, Cher was really, a star that we're all just kind of employed around her. Technically, I'm part of the entourage, right? When you take a pop gig like that. But there was there was a lot of people around Cher, you know. I mean, it wasn't like she was going to come walking out by herself. There was always, you know, people around her, security. Um, you know, I will say that she tried to keep it as real as possible, being as famous as she was. Like she would do things on the off nights, like take us all to the movies. And when you'd get to the movie theater, like she would not try to be pretentious and go like, I'm gonna walk up to the front, I'm Cher, and go get my popcorn. She'd like wait in line. And I'm like laughing, going like, there's Cher like waiting in line for popcorn right now at this movie theater. I always thought that was kind of fun. And
That's awesome.
she would have bingo nights and things like that, trying to help us bond. So she tried to keep it real, but she realistically she had a lot of people around her.
That's so cool. Alessandra Fernandez, you've played with Whitesnake, Cher, and TSO on Broadway. What was the biggest musical adaptation challenge you faced when switching between such vastly different styles?
Let me think about that. You know, all of them had learning curves. You know, our gig has had a learning curve too, man. You know, coming in and playing with Stephen has been a learning curve for me. It's just like to kind of adapt and fit in. Um, Possibly the most disappointing thing would be like Broadway. So, like when you're in Rock of Ages, we were an onstage band. However, in terms of like level of importance, the cast is out in front of you singing and telling the story and the jokes, and you're just kind of in this platform in the background. They gave me a couple moments to step out and do my thing, but it was, I guess, the lack of importance that you really were to it, which is super beneficial during that period, though, because you got to take off whenever you wanted. It was no big deal. Go play with Night Ranger, go play with TSO, no big deal. And then the day you're home, you're back up there. But there were times where you'd come off of like, you know, being out with a band where you're being treated like a very important person, and then you go back in on the Broadway gig. And like, I mean, they didn't, to give you an idea of where the band sits in terms of importance with that, we didn't even have a dressing room. We had to get dressed. They had a rack of clothes for our costumes, like in the hallway, and you just had to get dressed in the hallway, like of the basement of the theater, where everybody could just walk by at any time, and like there was no privacy or anything like that. And
Hey, I'm changing.
They just in general did not care about the band. Was the general that was sometimes tough to deal with, you know, because you're like, hey, you know, we bust our asses and we work, you know, a lot.
But you've carried that forward. We were at a gig the other day, and you just started getting changed right in front of me. Like you didn't give a shit. This is where it came from. Okay, I'm like, whoa, hey, Joel, put that thing away. Damn it. Okay, let me see here. Robert, right? Yeah, Robert. Did you have to audition for Whitesnake? And if so, what songs did you play for them?
Yeah, I had to audition. So they had me out. Reb had me learn Bad Boys to play with them, which we never did, as it turns out. I showed up.
Really?
The first thing that happened is it was really just David and Reb. And I talked to David at his desk, like up, you know, in the main area, the band house. He has a band house out there that he calls Hook City, where we would record everything, a studio built into it and everything like that. And then from there, we went down into the studio area, and he put up Lady Double Dealer, which is a Deep Purple song. It was like to be on the Purple album, right? Being remade. Right. And he was like, let's hear you to have a couple passes at a solo. So that was kind of my audition, and I got a solo down, and then they were like, well, that was quick. And they're like, well, there's a harmony solo that happens after that. And so on the spot, I kind of made a harmony solo, and not only made the one part, but I figured out what the harmony was really quickly and had the harmony part done in like 5-10 minutes too. And then he was kind of like, wow, okay, like, well, all right, so I guess you can play this gig. And then we went upstairs and we ate dinner together, and then we had a little moment of grabbing acoustics and singing. They wanted to hear me sing with them, kind of get a read on where my singing voice was, and that was it. And then David brought me out on the back deck and offered me the job.
That's so rad. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, well, a compliment from Sandra. Two legends. I'm being called a legend with you. I'm gonna cry. Erik Ferentinos' heavy riffs and fast solos captivate me too. It's my first time on this channel. Well, welcome. I appreciate you being here. I'm gonna start trying to have more of my friends come on the show. I'm not really a interview show. But if it's somebody cool like Joel that's like entertaining, I'll of course ask them to come on. And I do have cool friends like Joel, so you'll see some more people in the future. Let me see what T-Cuz has to say here. Erik is unfamiliar with I Hate God, co-founded by multi-instrumentalist Jimmy Bower on guitar, legendary drummer of Down on tour now. EHG only got 4 strings tuned down, solid state amp, heavy guitar. T-Cuz is our resident musicologist.
Okay.
He knows everything about everybody, so he wants me to not discount I Hate God. So I will have to check them out when we're there. Let's see if there's any good stuff in here. Thomas Bailey, Night Ranger. Don't say that you love me. It's don't tell me, isn't it?
Yeah, don't tell me you love me.
He's testing me. He's testing me to see if I'm going to get my Night Ranger card pulled. Let's see. T-Cuz EHG, heavy as hell, not guitar wizardry about the heft of the riff. Well, you've done all kinds of gigs. I mean, you were saying some of the first gigs you got were 60s bands. Wasn't it? Not the Turtles. Who was it?
Yeah, that was on my pathway up as well. Like, yeah, during the time where Love Janis, the show about Janis Joplin had closed, I started touring with Big Brother and the Holding Company a little bit. Janis Joplin's original band. Obviously, Janis had long since passed, but like they would carry a second guitar player on shows. So I was doing some of that. And then the Turtles, I had a sub for me in the show with Love Janis, who was the guitar player for the Turtles. He needed to go do something else, so they had me fill in there. And right when he was coming back, their bass player was like, I'm out of here. I've had enough of this. I can't take this anymore. And so they looked at me and they're like, you play bass? And I was like, I do now. I needed a gig,
Right?
man.
Yeah.
So I played bass for them for actually like 2 years. Kind of a strange fact. I played bass for the Turtles. Those that don't know, that's like Happy Together, right?
Right.
And so yeah, and then as luck would have it, again, it kind of linked up that the bass player wanted to come back and the guitar player needed to leave, and they moved me to guitar. So
That's a pretty basic song.
That literally led to like the Night Ranger thing, along with like World Stage when Jack Blades was talking, well, who are you touring with right now? I was like, the Turtles. He was looking at me like, what?
I mean, that's a super iconic song. I was just thinking about the bass lines. So it's pretty basic to that.
Pretty basic.
You and me. Well,
it's just a lot of Route 5 stuff. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
That's
basic.
cool, though. I mean, I enjoy playing the bass in the studio, I guess. You know what I mean? It's cool to be able to record albums with actual real bass players, though. I mean, when Tony Franklin, I mean, that was incredible. Matt's, really does some great bass stuff too in the studio on this new record. Zeke Trick had some compliments tonight. What's happening, buddy? Any Midwest shows for Pearcy Band? We're gonna see some shows soon. TKO signed Stephen, and Sullivan is still gonna work with us too, as far as like package stuff. So I know there's people working right now to get us all out there. People are excited about this lineup. I wasn't just, building up Joel here. Like, they know this is a great lineup right now, and people are excited. The last road video, I put probably more live stuff than I typically would on there, just because we haven't been playing much. I just want people to hear us do all these songs. And I mean, it sounds like Ratt to me. I mean, I was listening to You Think You're Tough on there. Man, that sounded just like 1983 Ratt with you and me up there playing.
Awesome.
It was super cool. Let me see here. Alessandra, the great thing when two talents meet is that the interview yields a wealth of content. It's true. I told Joel, he was so cool to me, I have to say, for being such a worldwide talent. He always wanted to come on this show. He's like, dude, I'll come on your show. He said that from day one. And I actually said, no, wait until the time is right, Joel. And that time has been now. After we got some shows under our belt, we're comfortable and it's chill, and we can just do like we do when we're out on the road. You know what I mean? And I appreciate you very much coming in, and it's brought in a new audience to my channel. I appreciate it, man. Absolutely. So we got Down and Out. Cheers from Chicago, a friend of Joel's from back in the day. Cheers, Joel. Great to see you, brother, rocking with the piercing camp. I don't know. There's a lot of misspellings here. Who's Eye Candy? You know who that is?
I can't figure it out.
Sorry. It could be a friend. It could be a foe. You never quite know. Is this more about EHG? Oh my goodness. I hate God still. Okay. T-Cuz. Are you coming out to this, T-Cuz? Do I have to fly you out to the Rainbow birthday bash? Because I do have a ton of miles. I just got my American Airlines 80,000 miles for spending the $1,000 in whatever that window is. You probably have a lot of goddamn miles, right?
I do. Yeah, my Delta and United for me currently, I'm holding pretty good. Yeah.
Did they give you any? Have you had any accolades from the airlines for like? Do you have million mile status on anything or?
No, nothing that crazy. I've been somebody who spread it out a lot over the years, and then other times like I'm just not flying as much, and then or I'll be the guy that burns them because I've hey, this flight got canceled. I got to get there today. Okay, there's 40,000 miles, so I can get on this flight, and like
yeah, I'll do whatever it takes to get the hell out of wherever it is. You know what I mean? I've had to do that where it's like it's weird how weather is such not our friend in the music business, and there's when you're going out to a gig when you potentially are going to not make it because of weather, it's awful because you need to get paid in most cases, but even after the gig you just want to go home. I don't want to go home, and maybe that airline you're on, just there's no way that you're going to get home, but another airline you might, and that's where it's cool to be a rock star and have like 4 different airlines where you got like a million miles on each one. You could save yourself from any bad situation. I'm finally at a point where I'm not at the mercy of some band. They're not going to like kidnap me out there and hijack me and not pay me. I'll get the hell out of there. I could totally get out, Uber to the airport. I got the miles. It won't cost me much to get home. Ratt and Whitesnake performed together in Brazil in October 2013 during the 5th edition of the legendary Monsters of Rock Festival. It was awesome. I'm thinking, were you in Whitesnake at that time when Ratt played?
Hell no. I was let's see, 2014 through 26. Yeah.
Thomas Bailey says he's below his weight. Maybe I said the phrase earlier. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm kind of tired today, but this show, it had to happen, man. This is one of our most legendary Unleashed shows yet.
Yeah. It was with Doug and Reb. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so 2014 is kind of when I auditioned and recorded the Purple album, and then the first time I started like touring with Whitesnake was 2015. So it was just a little bit before me.
Every time Thomas Bailey hears the phrase Rock of Ages, he hears Mutt Lange doing that weird countdown in the intro of Def Leppard's Rock of Ages. I think that's supposed to be the chef from not Sesame Street, but what's the other one? Burst. I'm trying to remember which show is that. The Muppets. It's the chef from the Muppets that he was imitating, I believe. Anyways, Steve Bailey, Steve Vai's solo is awesome, so clean sounding and pitch harmonics. Yeah, Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, I mean, I'm going to totally put them as influences for me on guitar, even though when I first started, they were so far out of my league. But just hearing them, all those iconic solos over the years, I kind of find myself doing a little bit of Steve Vai's stylings, and he was actually really melodic. He's a very melodic guy considering how shreddy he can be. I love his style, and I don't know. I don't really know if I have anything I personally contribute new on guitar when it comes to solos. I mean, everybody's done it all before as far as I'm concerned, but I guess it's just the choices you make and who you're going to emulate and what you put in your rock porridge for everyone. Okay, we got another question here. Joel, you've had several shows with Pearcy's band now. I don't know. You haven't had that many. What has been the best moment at any one of those gigs? And what are you hoping for moving forward? So a best moment so far and what you're hoping to get out of this in the future.
Man, the last two shows felt really good to me. Starting to feel a comfort level where it's not just about okay, I've like, gig number one was all right. I've learned the songs and I've learned some of the main solos, and that's all I can hope to get done. And let's go out and like let's just hope that this rocks. And like, there was something fun about that though too, because it was like, oh man, this is ballsy, man. This is gonna be a lot of improv and this is rock and roll.
Yep.
But then getting the solos together was stressful, and then I feel like gigs like 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 with factor in some travel was a lot about this. And then I feel like getting out there for the last couple was really like I said, that first time where we had little moments of it on the other gigs where I think we started to have some fun together, but I was really starting to take the attitude of F it, like, let's have fun. Like, I'm sick of stressing. Like, let's just, feel like I've worked hard, and if I mess up, I mess up, and like let's rock no matter what. Like
that works. So for if I could give advice to any other aspiring people, just always at least make it seem that way when you're on stage, and people will be so forgiving and have fun with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
laughing off a mistake is always a better way to go. There's nothing people get bothered by more as seeing a meltdown on stage or something they wouldn't have even noticed if you didn't project it out to everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
And as far as, looking forward, I mean, that's like, I think looking forward to gigging more than we have this year, doing more gigs to give us the opportunity to bond as a lineup. I really do enjoy everybody in the band as people. I think, we got a good bunch of mix of personalities, and a good mix of musicality for that matter. And I think just spending more time with everybody, just getting that bond on, and hopefully playing more,
Right.
I mean,
definitely I'm with you on that. My bank account
comfort level for me, when a lot of people don't realize, is you join a band, it's like, okay, I'm playing one, and then there's like a month off, and then it's like, now you're gonna play gigs 2 and 3. And then it's like, okay, and then it's like 2 months off, and they're gonna play gigs 4 and 5. So it's been a little bit like, oh my God, like I always feel really new going in. This last one was, like I said, the first time where I started to really kind of feel like, man, I'm having fun. This is really, really fun.
Well, giving a shout out to Brazil here. We got Alessandra's having fun at the show tonight. She wants to know, sharing guitar duties on stage while playing Ratt classics. Yeah, what's that like? I mean, for me, when Joel came up, I know his experience and I know what a big deal he is. And even though I've played in this band for so many years, it's a little intimidating. I'm going to be honest. I mean, he's a big talent and he's a big guy, it's like you're on stage, you're something else, you're something to behold. And like the first couple times where we had to do like a double solo, to be honest, like I kind of with the lineup we had the last couple of years, I was kind of sidelined there on the solo thing. So I really wasn't playing much leads in the last year or two anyway. So I kind of almost a little bit out of practice, if you will. But I've been playing a long time, so I can get it back. But I remember the first couple times going up, I had to like not think about what I was doing with you. I'm like, oh my God, it's Joel Hoekstra, shit. And like you miss a note, or whatever. The hardest thing is when you have to like harmonize with another guitarist, on stage, where you actually have to play together. It's kind of a big deal, and you could train wreck the other guy if you start hitting wrong notes.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel more comfortable myself now with you, where I can walk up to you and not think about the Joel Hoekstra thing. We could just come up as like guitarists playing the parts together. So that's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's great. The songs that we get a chance to play are great. They've always been some of my favorite songs from the 80s. Like if you were to be like, what are your favorite they're the Ratt riffs. Like, I mean, that's the stuff I used to play people and be like,
Right.
this. Be like, yes, I love this, but like, dude, you're gonna tell me Lay It Down is not the greatest rock riff of the 80s. It is the greatest rock riff of the 80s, you know?
It's definitely
Uh,
a great one,
so
for sure. C2 Trade saying everyone, that's everyone watching tonight, should check out Joel Hoekstra's 13 albums. There are really amazing tunes on there. Are these instrumentals or are they vocals too? What's going
no,
on?
it's all vocal stuff. So what happened is early on, before things took off for me, I made those kind of instrumental fusion albums I was talking about. Undefined, The Moon is Falling. Then of all things, I decided to make a fingerstyle acoustic album, right? All instrumental. And then as things took off, the fans were listening to my solo stuff and they're like, what the hell is this? Like, why don't you make some rock solo albums? And I was like, well, I always wanted to, but I made the distinction of rather than calling it a solo album, I didn't want to make stuff in our genre where it was just me shredding the whole time. That seemed lame. Like, what's the point? It's more about the songs and more about like, so what I decided to do was have it be something where it's like, all right, this is what it would be like. You know, say for you, like, this is what it would be like to make a record with Steven, except I get to write all of it and pick whoever I want to have play on it and be in charge of the artwork and oversee the mix. That's the way I look at it. The stuff sounds like band music. The hitch being is I write everything. I write the lyrics, I write the vocal melodies, and I sing a guide vocal for the singer to follow. And then I just hired my favorite classic rock guys. I got Vinny Appice on drums on all of them, and Tony Franklin on bass on all of them, Derek Sheranian on keys on all of them. Jeff Scott Soto does the backing vocals on all 4 records, believe it or not, which is kind of astounding. And then to kind of simplify things with the lead vocalist position, it was Russell Allen for the first 2 records and now Girish Pradhan for the 3rd and 4th records. But they basically sound like you'd be listening to a band. They're rock songs, and the guitar solos happen in the middle and there's some cool guitar work, but it's not like, hey, check me out, check out how fast I can play kind of stuff.
Right. You play for the song.
Interest in that.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make it more about like the actual song, like songwriting, and have it be about songs, period. And for me, it's been great. I mean, I want to actually take a second to thank Frontiers for the platform for that over the years, because, you know, there's a lot said about Frontiers as a label and what they do, but these guys have taken me on and given me a budget to record my own music. They've never one time stepped in and told me what to write or what to make it sound like or anything. They've taken everything I've done and they just say, we like everything you do, make another album. And, you know, they give me a budget for that. So I thank them for that, because, you know, that's part of what I want to have be my legacy. You know, having the 3 instrumental albums and the 4 vocal albums that I've written everything. Now you're more than just like a guy who had some cool gigs when you croak and you're lying in your grave, you know, and people are talking about what you contributed. You know, they can say, you know, man, you know, he had his own music out. He had 7 albums of his own out. That's nothing to sneeze at anymore, you know. Really.
You take all this seriously too. You played me one thing that sounded incredible, but it was actually just a joke, but you like took it to the highest production level, and it was like an inside joke that you had done for TSO when you made a song about a legendary incident that had happened on the road, and you like did this funny song really just for your fellow alumni to hear. But you played it for us and it was just like, god damn, it sounded like a Bo Hill production. And you did that like all yourself, right? I mean, pretty much.
I mean, I wrote the tune. Our bass player Tony basically did the engineering, the mix, and but yeah, I wrote the song. Yeah.
If it's a long one, I'll read it. Steve, saw several live 80s Ratt concerts. Always amazed me watching Juan's ability to run full speed up and down the stairs on their huge stage setup. Yeah, I mean, I hear it's cool to hear stories from you know, Pearcy and stuff about these sort of things. He would tell me that the band members would eat shit on these stairs. Robin probably the most, because Robin and Steven partied the most, I think, out of those guys. But he's a big dude. And he would eat shit. Have you been pretty lucky with not really eating a big one on some of these bigger production gigs?
I wish I could say that. No, I've got a highlight reel, or a low light reel, if you will, for sure. It's happened.
You actually have it on video of you falling down and doing stuff?
No, not necessarily on video. It's happened though. It's happened.
Right.
Like, I could go through them all, but it's boring. But it's happened for sure.
Right. Let's see here. Fuga, I don't even know how to say that. Fuga States Group question: what are the biggest differences for you, challenges or benefits, between shredding for a gig, Pearcy, for example, and then actually playing on stage? I don't even know if I quite understand.
Yeah, man, it's like nerves, stage fright, and the different sensory information happening. Like I usually sit right here, and I'll have my Pro Tools going on the same computer we're doing this on, and I'll sit and practice the set, and I'll be like, man, I got it. Like I'm playing everything really well, and I'll go ahead and do it again the next night. Yeah, I got it really well. And it seems like at a point you need reps with the band on stage. You need it in the moment to actually start to feel like it's all there. I don't know whether that's a relaxation thing or just like a vibe of getting used to the actual gig as opposed to sitting here practicing it. But I don't know exactly what that is. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I usually like to say you're going to play about 80% as well as you can when you're just sitting down here home
Right.
alone with nobody distracting you. You can figure the gig, you're going to sound about 80% that good.
You need the rehearsals with the band, without a doubt. I mean, for Pearcy Band, the shows are a rehearsal. It's dangerous. It's a little dangerous, but Joel likes it, and obviously if a band's not going to be rehearsing, you can expect that they're not going to be hold you to every note too. But it kind of brings us to this question, which we did touch on, but I still can't say this. Fuga State Group, as a hired gun, how do you look at balancing between being yourself and honoring the original performer, like how you have with Warren? Like when you're approaching Warren's solos, how much of it are you going to note for note? Not to answer it for you. You've kind of told me though, if this is how Joel explained it to me. If it's something that's iconic, that's melodic, that people are going to remember, he'll definitely play it. But if it's like just a bunch of noodling, then you got probably more room to do your own kind of noodles, right?
I mean, the way I've approached everything that's in the set right now is that I've done my best to learn the main solo of the song. And then when it comes to the outros, where there is a little room for like jamming, that's where I kind of think like, okay, I'm just, is it going to kill anybody if I play a little bit like myself here, as long as it's in the spirit of the song? As long as I'm playing for the song and not just like, completely off the rails. So that's kind of where things are at with that. There is definitely a difficult balance there because like if you're just really trying to emulate somebody else, it does take a little bit of the rock and a little bit of the fun out of it, I think, be feeling inspired and wanting to play like what's in your heart or what you're feeling at the time is important. Right. So I've been just kind of giving myself the outro solos for the most part to just kind of be like, all right, let's just play here.
It works.
But the main solos in the song, I've been trying to do what Warren played as best I can. And that's not, like I said, there's varying degrees of success with these things.
CC Shocker saw Joel fill in for Mick Jones, Foreigner, while he was in Night Ranger at PNC Arts Center in Homedale, New Jersey. He's been a fan ever since. So you must have torn it up.
I remember that gig, man. That was a big one.
T-Cuz. This guy rules. What a grounded guitar wizard. Yeah, that's what I was calling Joel. I'm like, it's the wizard. That's my little nickname for him.
Oh, man.
What's this one? Does that mean Accept was disingenuous? He's giving a funny face. He's not serious.
Oh, no. Well, Wolf, the solos, Wolf told me to play my own thing. Any of the solos I was doing with Accept, I was pretty much doing my own thing. I had less pressure on me with that as far as the lead work. Now the rhythm work, that's a different story. That was really detailed with Accept, and Wolf was like a pocket freak, and that got down to every nuance. Like when you were sliding into a chord, what kind of slide you're playing into a chord. Wolf is really detail oriented with riffs. That's what he cares about. And when it's a lead, he's like, oh, do whatever you want. That was kind of the way he approached that stuff. And if it was a signature lead, Wolf was going to be playing it anyway.
That's so dope. Okay, what do you guys got here? Fuego State Group. How do you feel about people who watch shows from behind a recording with iPhones? Are you pro phone at concerts or are you anti phone at concerts, Joel?
I mean, people paid, they can do whatever the fuck they want. That's what I think. I mean,
You got used to it, right? I mean, you're just used to
I
it.
mean, I will say it's sometimes a little bit of a bummer that it can't just feel like old school rock and roll, because you, as a performer, you do feel like, all right, whatever you play could end up on YouTube and get a gazillion views no matter where you are. So it does put you under a lit. I think it stiffens things up a little bit more than if like people knew like, hey, nobody's gonna see this except who's in this room right now. And so, you can get, I think you could take things a little bit more to a dangerous place when that's not happening.
True.
As far as musically speaking, not like, anyway, harming people or anything like that, but just like, just trying to be loose and have fun, like rock and roll. But that being said, man, people they pay for their ticket. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
It replaced lighters, that's for sure. It used to be lighters, it would be the only thing you see. Now it's just all phones. It freaked me out at first, I'll have to admit. And depending on where they're filming it, it could sound like crap. But I think with that said, people have got used to seeing footage and they don't scrutinize it as quite as bad off a phone. But I think that's also like caused bands to mime a lot. They're so worried about it that now they blow in a bunch of tracks, right? That's probably the main reason for that. Let's see here, getting the end here tonight. I hope you guys will bring the Stephen Pearcy song 10 Miles Wide into the set list. It's such a modern classic, has that Van Halen Unchained vibe. Well, yeah, it's the drop D thing going on there, so for sure. I think if we play anything, it'll be a couple new songs off Stephen's new record, Dog Mob, which I'm happy to report will come out this year. I thought it was going to be next year because it was a late signing, but you guys are going to hear it really, really soon. I would imagine we're at least going to play the single or something. Logan's here, y'all.
Yo, what's up, dude?
Hey, guys. Hope all's well. Logan's part of our alumni, too. This is when Joel's going to be heading out for TSO. This is your fill-in, just like for TSO. Logan does a great job at the Ratt songs. And, like you've talked about with the younger guitarists out there, that's kind of how I feel about Logan here, with like passing the torch down. He's 25 now, Logan. I think 24.
Logan, I'm coming to your neck of the woods, dude. I'm going to be in Nashville after Mountain for like 3 days. We should hang, dude. Give me a holler. Hit me up.
There you go, buddy. Okay, a couple more questions here before we let Joel go. He's on East Coast time, people. It was very nice for him to hang for this whole thing. Matt's such a chill dude on bass. Yeah, he's also kind of the guy who handles all the technicalities. Like, if we didn't have somebody like Matt to deal with the whole in-ear monitor BS, I would just be like Joel, like, let's go old school. Like, I'm so quick to get rid of these and go, okay, I guess we're not using them. But he puts in all this extra effort to make sure that our stuff's working. Spicoli says, thank you guys for keeping rock and F and roll alive. Yeah, and Willie Wayne, he's got a bunch of happy love horns there. Jimmy wants to know, who's your guitar hero if you had to put it down to one?
Angus for making me want to start. And then it's a bunch of people that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Like, I met my second teacher, TJ Helmrich, for helping me out with the tapping stuff. Brett Garsett influenced a lot of my legato stuff and hybrid picking stuff. I'm getting all nerdy with the technique talk, but guys like that. And then I learned a lot from people that I've worked with, man. So like the people that I spent like I mentioned, the Night Ranger guys are a big influence on me because I learned a lot from them. So I have a lot of heroes, man. It's a really long list. I often cite bands like more than like specific guitar players, but I like, dude. Okay, hold on. Can I just go ahead and elaborate? Fuck it. So I started out really metal. So like Tony Iommi, Angus Young, Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, like Maiden, the Scorps, like Rudy. But I grew up in the Matthias era. I know it's not like trendy to say, but like that's who I grew up with. So I really like Matthias. I think he's really underrated. I like proggier stuff. So I love Alex Lifeson. I love Rush. I love Trevor Rabin era Yes stuff. I like classic rock stuff. Like I love Jimmy Page. Anybody ever says Jimmy Page sucks, it's like, dude, go listen to the Rain song and get back to me. Tell me
Right.
that sucks. I really, really love Hendrix and David Gilmour and like, those classic rock guys like that. And I love the guitar era people, man. I mean, a lot of the Satriani's, Vise that we talked about, Yngwie Malmsteen, all of that stuff is a big part of my my upbringing where I my formative years on guitar, putting it all together. But I think the older you get, I don't know if you might think the same, Eric, because I get the most off people I actually work with. That's
Sure.
like you pull from their vibe and like what their perspective is on it all. I don't know.
Just playing the Rat songs for 25 years has definitely influenced me. And then, here we are with the new album. The stuff just kind of comes out of you. Not that it all sounds exactly like rap, but it ended up being a totally big influence on me. Moia, 1982. Greetings, Joel from Argentina. Could you tell us something about your collaboration with the friend here in Argentina, Ale Caligaris? Ale sadly passed away a month and a half ago.
Yeah, that's sad. I'm really sad that Ali passed away. He hit me up about doing like a couple tracks or I'm like, providing guitars for him on a couple things. And I was more than happy to help him out. We met up when I was in Argentina with Accept and, had the opportunity to contribute to a couple tracks of his. So very sad. Rest in peace. And, Godspeed, brother, man. Great to meet you and rock out with you.
My boy Tim Lloyd 69, he loves to 69 and throw super chats. Great hangout tonight. Well, awesome. I talked to Tim yesterday, and just to give a shout out to our Unleashed and our Frightbiter pal Scott Johnson, who suffered a stroke the other day. We're wishing him a speedy recovery, and he hit his head and all this stuff. But Tim went and visited him in the hospital and was just being a good pal, good friend, and he's a good friend to the show. And thank you for that super chat. Appreciate it. Okay, what's this? Thomas Bailey. Yeah, I'm starting to. Okay, he's had us. Everybody, all our older watchers of this channel are in the hospital or sick or man, getting old sucks. You got to really take care of yourself, right, Joel?
Dude, for real.
Okay, here's it's gonna be probably the last question of the night. What was it like working with Reb Beach? He seems like a really down-to-earth musician. Posted a comment on his message board about 10 years ago. He actually took the time to send a nice note back.
Yeah, Reb likes to keep it real. I mean, I think he's tied at the hip with Kip Winger. Those two go together just like perfectly. Reb is like a follower and Kip is like a mega alpha, just like, so when they just immediately were like perfect for each other, that, Kip will always have Reb's back, but they just, they fit together so perfectly. And that whole band is very funny. I don't know if you ever noticed that and like being out on the scene at all, but Winger, those guys, like, they'll like go walking out for dinner together and stuff. You just don't see bands do that. They're always all going out together. They're really good guys. Reb is really, really funny, really, really talented. If I had like surprise commentary for people that maybe they wouldn't understand, is Reb's a really, really, really good rhythm guitar player. Like, so like everybody knows he's like, the tapping and all that, and so they think of him for all that. But like, what was my favorite thing with Reb was that we really, really locked on riffs together. Like we worked on every nuance of playing the Whitesnake riffs together and making sure that they're really tight. And that was a joy, that and laughing my ass off with them in like the back launch of the bus at night and stuff. So
I have one funny Reb story. I guess I don't know if I've ever told this, but I believe it was around like 2004. VH1 did this acoustic tour. They were initially going to film this as a reality show, but just opted not to just do the tour. But on this bus was Janie Lane, the entire Firehouse band, Kip Winger and Reb Beach, Don Dawkin, Stephen Pearcy, me, and Frank Wilsey, all on the same bus. And it was pretty nutty back then. It was a pretty nutty experience. Just Janie Lane at the time was crazy. But
Yes.
One funny thing with Reb, I mean, we both like to partake in the weed and stuff. And I remember we were in, I think we were in my hotel room or something, and we were really just Cheech and Chonging it up in there. And the smoke obviously got out, and there was a knock at the door, and it was like security. Dun, 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 dun. Security, open the door. And I remember I did like one of those Star Wars like Jedi control things. I was like, "You don't need to come in here." And the guy was like, "Oh, well, I guess I don't need to come in here." It was like the weirdest thing. Like I thought we were gonna get busted, but the Star Wars move like worked, and the guy actually left. It didn't come in, and Reb was like super impressed by that. But you know, he was a super funny dude to be around. That whole tour was nuts. But I don't know. That's my Reb.
You know,
story.
Reb Beach he's a miracle of modern science. That he's still in good health.
Joel's holding back from telling the real stories right now.
No. I was gonna say he's a real original. Like there's only one Reb, you know? Like there's no one else I know like him. He is like Reb kind of stands alone as in his persona. There's only one person like him. So he can be like very truthful, very funny. He's a great guy, man. I mean, I got really lucky with the guitar players I've worked with over the years for sure, man, you know.
Would you agree that like all these guys that are still out playing have that about them, like a professionalism about them? And they're just even keeled enough to survive this lifetime of 40, 50 years in the business. I mean, if they were any less, they wouldn't be out still doing it. But it's an honor to play with these guys. I mean, even that tour being, that was one of my first times rubbing elbows with such, you know, huge rock stars from our childhood. And it was a great experience. And just another thing, I'm sure it's the same for you when you get involved with these people, it just tells you you're on the right path and motivates you to keep going at this really difficult business and succeed in it, which you've done a great job of doing. And I'm loving it. I have nothing but great expectations for us going into next year. And I hope that your show at Monsters with Brandon is a success. That you have a couple gigs you're doing around that.
Yeah, doing a couple gigs in a guitar clinic there, and then, like I said, a couple drive to Nashville the next day and do a session there for a couple days, and then head home. And then I think next up is, you know, I'm going to play with the Rock of Ages band the night before the Rainbow, and then fly to the Rainbow. So, you know,
that's the one thing that scares me is that
gods.
that you don't make it in on, because sometimes you really cut it close. Like, okay, guys, I'm going to be there, I think, by sound check day of show. And I'm going, oh, God damn it. Do I need to like go over these solos? You know, if he doesn't show, I probably should just in case. Because sometimes I'm like, man.
You know, that's when we have Logan know like the first flight out of.
Yeah. Logan, are you ready to come in if that happens? Anyways. Well, everybody, thanks so much for being a part of the Unleashed tonight. It was a big treat having Joel on the show. Thank you so much, dude, for doing this. And he'll be back. He'll be back again. And
I'll be back.
He'll be back, everyone. Until then, be cool and be kind to each other.